Chapter 161. After Ryan came out of the principal's office, he went directly to class, carrying all his books in his pocket. However, when he walked to the classroom, he found that no one was in the classroom. After asking a passing little wizard, he found out that what Lucius announced at noon today was so exciting that the entire school, from teachers to students, was discussing this matter. At that time, Dumbledore was fighting with Ryan in the room of requirement, and no one could be found at all, so Professor McGonagall decided to give the students a holiday. By the way, I would like to distribute the course selection list so that students can make good use of these few days to think about their future paths. Ryan, would you like us to introduce you to the professors who are taking the course? As soon as Ryan stepped through the door of the Slytherin common room, he was pulled over by Kes. As payment, all you have to do is tell me what Headmaster Dumbledore said when he pulled you out. Don't listen to his nonsense, Zell. The two of them only took 2 courses, and the information they can tell you is limited. I have organized an introductory meeting to introduce you to the main content of each course and the seriousness of the professors. In terms of their level and preferences, they are all seniors in the 6th and 7th grade, and there are at least 3 people in each class. Having said this, Senior Gemma paused for a moment, then showed an awkward smile and continued, ahem, except for Muggle studies. Don't worry about this, we will arrange for more than 3 students to introduce each class, okay, let you consider it comprehensively. It will be here at 8 o'clock tonight, don't forget, otherwise you will have to work hard to collect information by yourself. After saying that, Senior Gemma patted Ryan on the shoulder, and then went to inform the next person. Hey, Ryan, come and take the divination class with us. It's very easy to pass the exam. Beaver said excitedly. Kes picked up the cup and drank the coffee inside. Then he looked at it pretentiously and said in a pretentious tone. Ah, Bifer, you have to be careful next time. Look at this black cat. It can see disasters. It seems that you have been uneasy recently. But there is a sword here. You should be able to. It's okay, but it's also a bit dangerous. Then Kes burst out laughing, ha ha ha, you just need to say that and you can pass. Getting an A is not a problem. Ah, look at this black dog, you may have suffered a bloody disaster recently, so be careful. Bifer also pretended to be on the side, this kind can get an E. As for O, I don't recommend that you pursue it. After saying that, Beaver patted Ryan on the shoulder, you have to tell yourself that you will die in the next second, and die miserably. To be honest, except for Professor Trelawney who always has a strong smell of alcohol, everything else is pretty good. Divination class can be said to be the easiest class in Hogwarts. But I don't recommend choosing Muggle studies. Kes came over and said, first of all, Slytherin did not choose this course. Secondly, this is the most important thing. I heard that several young people of Muggle origin wizards went to class and went crazy. Why? Ryan became curious. For example, a vending machine. I heard from Muggle wizards that it can vend automatically, but Professor Boobaji thinks there is actually a person working inside. Beaver shrugged and said helplessly. A young wizard once corrected him, but Professor Boobaji always believed that there was a person inside. This caused the young Muggle wizards to go back and ask their parents during the holidays if there was anyone in the vending machine. I heard that the castle's owls never rested in those days. Chris said something funny. That's really very old-fashioned, isn't it? Beaver said. Generally speaking, Muggle wizards don't get high marks in Muggle studies because their answers are always different from the standard answers. Really arrogant. Ryan thought in his heart. What makes a difference is that they are completely unwilling to acknowledge the development of Muggles. They still view Muggles from the perspective of the Middle Ages. Even if the International Wizards Protection Act protects, it only isolates them. Actually, I don't need to choose a class. Ryan smiled and handed the declaration of suspension of study to the two of them. The two looked at each other curiously, and then each took it from Ryan's hand. After looking carefully, the two looked at each other in surprise again, then turned to look at Ryan with the eyes of a panda. What's wrong? Is something wrong? Hell, Principal Dumbledore actually approved it. Kes said in surprise. It's true. I thought you were joking on the train. Beaver was also surprised. But when I thought about it, I felt relieved. With Ryan's current strength, he really didn't need to continue studying in school. Okay, there is no need to publicize this matter to the outside world. What Ryan thought was that it would be better to do less than to do more, and avoid being looked at like a gorilla while walking in the corridor. Cuckoo. Pace flew in, dropped a note, and flew away again in the blink of an eye. Ryan caught the note floating down from the air, and then glanced at Pace's flying back strangely. Something's wrong with this bird today. Normally it would have to eat at least one nut before it would leave. Ryan thought. Is this the note from Miss Granger? Beaver said. Ryan opened the note and took a look. It was indeed from Hermione, who wanted to ask him to go to the library. Beaver, Chris, I'm leaving first. Ryan. After saying hello, he stood up from the sofa and walked out. Go ahead, I'm so envious. After Ryan left, the sofa became empty, and Kes lay down on it. Now the only way I can get some comfort is by lying flat on my back. Beaver waved to Ryan, then picked up a book next to him and started reading. Ryan came out of the basement and walked up. The surrounding corridors were filled with young wizards discussing course selections. Painters and ghosts occasionally participated in the discussion. All the way to the library, Hermione was standing there waiting. You are really slow. Hermione said with some displeasure. I'm already very fast. Ryan said, pushing open the library door. If you want to discuss course selection, please keep your voice down, or I'll ask you to go to the corridor. As soon as she entered the door, Mrs. Pinksy said coldly without raising her head. But listen to this, Mrs. Pants should say this every year. Hermione, I have to tell you something. Professor Dumbledore has agreed to my suspension of study application. Ryan pulled Hermione to a seat by the window, and then said the words Hermione least wanted to hear. Chapter 162. Hermione was silent for a moment and nodded in frustration. After being in contact with Ryan for so long, she gradually understood what kind of person Ryan was. Stubborn, outspoken, erudite, powerful, etc., so when Ryan said he would take a break from school on the train, she had guessed that such a day would come. In fact, even when Yorian came to the library to discuss course selection, the little girl hesitated for a long time before making up her mind. Because Hermione knew that Ryan did not need to choose classes. Haha, you are here. An old but hearty voice sounded, attracting the attention of Ryan and Hermione. Ah, hello, Mr. Buckland. Ryan said hello to a ghost that jumped out of the bookshelf. Hello, Ryan. It's course selection season again, and I thought I could help you a little. You know, I've lived a long time. Sorry, Mr. Buckland, I have applied for a leave of absence. Mr. Buckland was obviously stunned for a moment, and then asked cautiously, are they the Slytherin guys? No, Mr. Buckland, it's my own choice. Ryan said to Buckland with a smile. What about you, Granger? Buckland turned his attention to Hermione next to Ryan. Mr. Buckland, I intend to choose them all. Hermione said confidently. This is not a good choice, Granger. The course will be very stressful, and to some extent, it will damage your life. To be honest, it is really unnecessary. Mr. Buckland dissuaded. Wait, damaging lifespan? Hermione was a little surprised. The little girl didn't understand why taking more classes would be related to her life. It should be a time turner. Ryan mentioned at the side. You actually know. Buckland glanced at Ryan in surprise. Those people at the Ministry of Magic value the time turner more than their own lives, and generally don't let others know. But don't worry, as long as the professors are willing to write reports for you, it is still possible to get a time turner. With your results, Granger, I think Professor McGonagall will be very happy. But then again, Gryffindor over the years, there have been several students who have obtained 12 certificates, but not a single one from Ravenclaw. Buckland smiled and said. But what does this have to do with my course selection? Hermione still didn't understand. The class times of some courses overlap, so we have to use a time converter to allow you to go back to the past and take classes, but you cannot change history. When Buckland saw Hermione's face turn happy, he immediately understood the little girl's thoughts and immediately gave a serious warning. Let's talk about these things after you decide to choose the 12 courses. If you choose, Professor McGonagall will explain it to you. If you don't choose, you don't need to know. Sometimes, knowing too much is not a problem. A good thing. Buckland continued, completely breaking Hermione's mind. To be honest, I don't recommend you to take the divination class. Although Trelawney has the blood of a diviner, it is obvious that she cannot control it, so now she is just cheating and drinking at Hogwarts. Buckland said. Cough cough cough. Ryan coughed twice. He didn't expect Mr. Buckland to say so boldly. What? I'm already a ghost, and ghosts can't die. Mr. Buckland stood up straight and said without fear, so what if she hears it? She can still kill me. Ryan and Hermione looked at each other and saw a hint of helplessness in each other's eyes. Both of them saw that Mr. Buckland was pretending, so they didn't have the nerve to expose him. Ryan once asked Bloody Barrow about Buckland. In Barrow's words, Buckland was an extremely introverted young man when he was young. After he became a ghost, he always liked someone. People wonder. You can choose care of magical creatures, but I heard that Professor Ketleben, who is in charge of this course, plans to retire this year. I don't know who will teach you next year. Speaking of which, Professor Ketleben is also a wonderful person. Over the years, Ketleben is the only person who has been under investigation for decades, so much so that he is about to retire now and has not been able to become a full-time employee. Mr. Buckland kept saying some information about the professor who chose the course. Hermione, does Gryffindor organize a meeting to introduce course selection? Ryan asked with concern. Not really, Hermione said with a sigh. The little lions of Gryffindor all get together and then ask their seniors. But Hermione's popularity in the academy was not good and she had no friends at all. This kind of thing was immediately excluded. Okay, Slytherin will have an introduction meeting in the evening, and I will take notes. Ryan said with a smile. Thank you, Ryan, Hermione said, blushing. Well, I remembered that Nico said he wanted to see me for something, so I went over first. Mr. Buckland coughed, and then quickly got into the bookshelf and disappeared. But I still choose them all. Hermione looked at Ryan firmly. She also has her own arrogance, and no matter how much Ryan tries to dissuade her, she will still choose all the courses. Okay, but I will still take notes. At least I can get some information about the professor. After the chat, Hermione took out the course selection list, put a check mark in front of each course, and then solemnly put it in her notebook. Then, after reading for a while, the two went to the restaurant to have dinner. Although it is understood that the murderer is a basilisk, it has not been caught yet, so the ban on corridors has not been lifted. The little wizards can still only walk on the main roads, especially the stairs. There is only one staircase between each floor for going up and down. Why are there so many people today? Hermione asked in surprise as she looked at the flow of people in front of her. The little wizards must have gathered around the senior students to ask about course selection, so they blocked the road. Ryan said calmly that he had seen how pitted the stairs at Hogwarts were in the past 2 years. Now that there are so many people here, it's normal for 1 or 2 unlucky ones to trigger the mechanism and get stuck. Fortunately, the library is only on the 2nd floor, so after the unlucky guy in front pulled his feet out of the stairs, the passage was restored. The restaurant was still busy today, with the little wizards discussing crazily about course selection. The children were a little overwhelmed by the ban on the corridors. Finally, they encountered an interesting thing, and naturally they had to discuss it carefully. However, towards the end of dinner, bad news came. Chapter 163. The little wizards were enjoying dessert when they suddenly heard several loud noises coming from above their heads. The sound was so loud that glowing runes appeared on the walls of the castle for reinforcement. What's going on? Kes was startled by the noise, and the knife in his hand was suddenly inserted into the cake, and it was still standing there. Could it be the murderer? Beaver said. Most of the little wizards had the same idea as Beaver. Under the loud shouts of the Weasley twins, the Gryffindor little lions picked up the wands in their hands and rushed out, leaving only several people were sitting on the seats. The little snakes and the little eagles sat in their seats and chose to be wise and protect themselves. But this is also the wisest choice, because with their current level, they could not do anything else except cause trouble to the professors in the past. After a discussion, the little badgers decided that students in 5th grade and above would go to help, but they were quickly pushed to their seats by Professor Sprout who came in from outside the door. It's not a murderer's attack. Professor Sprout's face was gloomy, and after saying that, he left the restaurant in a hurry. The little wizards couldn't believe that Professor Sprout, who was usually very gentle, could put on such an expression, and they immediately started discussing it enthusiastically. However, it is obvious that now they can only make random guesses, and there is no useful information at all. Soon, the little lions who rushed out dejectedly opened the door of the restaurant and walked in. The little wizard who had friends in Gryffindor immediately rushed over to ask what was going on outside. After a while, everyone knew what happened outside. The wooden fence that was originally used to seal off the corridor has now been blown to pieces, and 2 or 3 explosive bombs have been stuffed into Filch's office. Now there is nothing useful inside. Fortunately, Filch was patrolling outside at that time, otherwise Filch would definitely have died. But when the professors asked the ghosts and portraits if they had seen the perpetrator, they received a unanimous answer: "Sorry, we didn't." Ha, it must be Peeves. The ghost's plan has been launched. Beaver pulled X and Ryan towards him and said with a wicked smile. Ryan also smiled. He was not interested in the policy Filch came up with. After all, he had not gone to the classroom on the 5th floor to prepare medicines for several months. Now that he was about to travel, it was time to prepare some more medicines. Kexi was very excited. Looking at him, he wanted to run out and help Peeves throw 2 explosive bombs. "Okay, don't let this matter spread. Otherwise, don't blame me if you are hated by the ghosts and portraits." Beaver looked at Kes and said, he knew very well that Ryan would not tell anyone. "Why are you looking at me? I'm very strict with my mouth." Kes said confidently. "Haha, if I hadn't held that photo of yours, how could you have been so tight-lipped?" Beaver showed a sarcastic smile, and the disdain in his words could be felt by Ryan even from such a distance. However, Ryan also noticed the key point in Beaver's words and quickly asked, "What photo?" "I remember, Beaver, you have photos at Kes's place. Compared with my photos, Chris's photos are the most popular." Beaver smiled mysteriously. "Also, I must declare that I have destroyed that photo." "You sure?" Kes said coquettishly, but before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by Professor Dumbledore, who broke in through the door. "Everyone, please return to the college lounge under the leadership of their respective deans. Prefects, please take good care of the students." Dumbledore stood on the staff bench and looked at the little wizard below with a serious face. The professors all had ugly expressions on their faces, and they all had wands in their hands. It seems something happened, Ryan thought. Then Ryan noticed that in addition to the professors of the elective courses, all the professors of the required courses were here, except for Lockhart. Could it be that Lockhart, the idiot, was petrified? Ryan thought of a possibility, and the more he thought about it, the more he felt that this might be the truth. Senior Gemma and the other 5 prefects quickly organized the little snakes, and were escorted by Snape to the Slytherin common room safely. "No one is allowed to go out tonight, otherwise," Snape said, looking around at the little snakes sitting on the sofa in the lounge, "I will make you feel that drinking my potion is a pleasure." Snape's sharp eyes and cold words made the snakes that were still about to move lower their heads in an instant and stopped thinking about him. Snape nodded with satisfaction, then tossed his black robe and walked out. On the other side, Professor McGonagall had a dark face and was shaking with anger. She had just counted the number of people and found that 2 were missing. Her heart tightened and she began to pray that Potter and Weasley would not be killed. However, Murphy's Law once again showed its powerful effect and Potter and Weasley disappeared. The prefects will work harder today. They will take turns keeping watch at night and watching the door. If anyone dares to sneak out at night and write down his name, I will turn him into a door lock so that he can remember it for a long time. After Professor McGonagall finished her sentence, she walked out the door. She needed to inform Dumbledore. After all, it's about the Savior. At this time, Harry and Ron came to Hagrid's hut wearing invisibility cloaks, fed Yaya some food, and then ran into the Forbidden Forest with Yaya. They were going to find Aragog, the Acromantula Hagrid kept in the Forbidden Forest. "Okay, I understand, Minerva." Dumbledore stood in the school hospital and listened to Professor McGonagall's report, and on the bed in front of him lay another petrified suffering child, Gdro Lockhart. Then he summoned his phoenix, whispered a few instructions to it, and Fox chirped, turned into a ball of flame and disappeared into the air. "How's it going, Poppy?" After Fox left, Dumbledore asked Madame Pomfrey, who was examining Lockhart. "The situation is very bad. His vitality is constantly draining away. It is expected that if there is no vitality essence within 2 days." Madame Pomfrey's voice dropped, but everyone understood what Madame Pomfrey meant. Dumbledore pinched the bridge of his nose. There were so many things going on today, all mixed together, making him a little overwhelmed. After all, he is now over 100 years old. "Severus, please." "Humph." Snape snorted, then walked out of the infirmary with his head held high, without looking at Lockhart the whole time. Chapter 164 Early the next morning, when Ryan came to the restaurant and was about to open the door, he noticed that Gryffindor's score had dropped by another 20 points. Harry and Ron, who were listless, nodded and sat in the Gryffindor room. On Fendo's table, the little wizards around looked at the two people with a hint of disgust in their eyes. Hell, why do you still need to take the exam like this? Early in the morning, Kes sat down next to Ryan angrily, pounded the table and said, "What will happen to your certificates if you don't take the exam?" Ryan took a sandwich and took a bite. "Besides that, I think you need to be concerned about another thing. Professor Lockhart, the recipient of the 3rd level Order of Merlin and the 5-time Most Charming Smile Award, seems to be lying in the school hospital. The school has issued an announcement. All subsequent defense against the dark arts classes will be changed to self-study." Beaver sat down and took a piece of bread that was still fragrant from Kes. "By the way, the 5th-year defense against the dark arts class will be taught by Dean Snape, and will be taught by all 4 colleges together every Saturday morning. Well, I suddenly feel that our success rate in passing defense against the dark arts OWL.S is greater." Kes was also a little happy. "To be honest, the officials sent by the Ministry of Magic will not give you a certificate just because your performance is realistic. There is still some time, I think we will make progress." Beaver was also very happy. "And I think Dean Snape should be very happy too," Kes said as he looked at Snape walking in from the door. Today, Snape no longer has greasy hair, and it looks like he has washed it. He was still wearing the same black robe, but for some reason, Snape today had an aura that made him look happy. Snape was sitting on the staff bench eating breakfast, looking at the young wizard below with cold eyes, until he saw Harry, who was whispering to Ron. A trace of disgust flashed in his eyes. "He is obviously Lily's child, but he is as arrogant as Potter." Snape thought about his conversation with Dumbledore the night before. He couldn't believe that when something like this happened, Harry and Ron were so bold as to take Yaya to the Forbidden Forest to look for the Acromantula and ask about the accident that happened 50 years ago. If Fawkes hadn't arrived last night, Snape would have been confessing to a pile of spider droppings today for not taking good care of Lily's son. Thinking of this, Snape tightened the silver spoon in his hand, causing it to deform slightly. In the restaurant, the voices of the little wizards eating became quieter. No matter what Snape was in today, the little wizards didn't want to offend him. After breakfast, Ryan was just about to go back to his dormitory when Snape called him to him. Snape threw a small cloth bag over. After Ryan finished, he squeezed it and found that it should be a potion jar inside. "I heard that you were planning to go out for a walk in the 3rd year? Haha. This is a little guarantee I gave you, so that you don't die soon after you go out and lose my reputation as a Slytherin," Snape said with a cold face and a sneer on his lips. "Okay, you can get out." Before Ryan could say anything, Snape ordered him to be kicked out. The words of thanks that Ryan had not yet spoken were stuck in his throat. After a long time, 2 words came out, "Okay." After coming out of Snape's office, Ryan received a small note that Hermione asked Pace to send. "Final exams are coming soon, so I think we need to review the textbooks again. See you in the library at 9:30 in the morning." Ryan had a headache. He couldn't understand why Hermione was so interested in reviewing. "It's obvious that you've already mastered it, so why do you have to watch it again?" Of course, Ryan would never say it. After looking at the time, it was already 9 o'clock, and Ryan ran directly to the library. The library was extremely busy today, with more people than usual, and most of them were bending down to read. Mrs. Pants is constantly patrolling, but it is obvious that there is no one who can make her use the feather duster today. Everyone is reviewing very seriously. Ryan walked slowly, looking for Hermione. Because he just walked to the seat where they used to sit, only to find that it was already occupied. Percy Weasley and Penelope Cravat. As he walked, he discovered another strange thing. For the first time, Harry and Ron appeared in the library and were still reading. If you say that flipping through a book in 2 or 3 minutes is called reading. Ryan knew that they were looking for information about the basilisk, but this did not prevent him from causing some trouble for Ron. In the original book, it was this carrot head that captured Hermione's heart. Ryan stood there for a while and looked at Ron, who was flipping through the book frantically, so much so that half of a page was torn out with too much force. Soon, Ryan's unusual behavior attracted Mrs. Pants's attention. She held the feather duster in her hand and walked this way silently. When Ryan saw Mrs. Pants walking this way, he smiled and continued to look for Hermione. Soon, he found Hermione in a corner near the restricted book area. Look, so many people are here to review today. Everyone. We have been studying very hard during this period. I think we need to read the book twice more before the exam. You have to be careful. I think your grades may not be as good as mine this year. Good. Hermione said in a very small voice as soon as she saw Ryan. But soon, she shut her mouth because she saw Mrs. Pants walking this way. Of course Mrs. Pants was not here to see Hermione, but was curious about what Ryan was looking at after standing there for a while. The students were very well behaved today, and Mrs. Pants had some free time to satisfy her curiosity. Why are you laughing? Hermione looked at Ryan with a mysterious smile on his face, feeling an ominous premonition in his heart. Damn it! Is this how you treat knowledge? Get out, do you hear me? Get out, you are not welcome in the library. Mrs. Pants's violent voice instantly filled the entire library. Regardless of whether they were studying seriously or not, the little wizards stuck their heads out to see this warrior who dared to provoke Madame Pants. The feather duster in Mrs. Pants's hand made a squeaking sound, while Harry and Ron ignored the books in their hands and ran out with their heads in their hands. Looking at the randomly discarded books, Mrs. Pants frowned distressfully, then picked them up, quietly repaired them with magic, and stuffed them back into the bookshelf. Oh! Hermione looked away and sighed silently. She once tried to persuade Harry and Ron, but it was obvious that Ron scolded them back. From then on, Hermione never took care of them again. Chapter 165. Hermione no longer paid attention to Harry and Ron, turned around and began to urge Ryan to seize the time to review. Hermione, I'm leaving school soon. I can do whatever I want for this exam, right? Ryan didn't want to read a book that he could already memorize fluently. It would be a waste of his life. Sorry, no. Hermione refused sternly, you are just suspending school, not dropping out. You may still need to come back to class in the future. Do you think I can't pass the OWL.S with my current strength? That's not okay. But the little girl lowered her head and thought for a while, then said hesitantly, okay, okay. Ryan breathed a sigh of relief and picked up a travel journal to read. He had been reading various travel journals recently to plan his travel route. He plans to go to Egypt to visit the pyramids first, then go to France to visit Nicole Flamel, and then go to Romania to see the dragons in this world. On the way, he can go to Nurmengard to see the Dark Lord of the Generation, and then go to the Himalayas. Have a look. Then it passes through the great eastern countries, passes through the Pacific Ocean, goes to the country of Ming, and finally returns to the country of Yu. He believed that this must be a trip that would surprise him enough. Ryan? What are you thinking about? Hermione raised her head, curiosity shining in her eyes. I'm thinking about my next travel route, and I already have a rough plan. Ryan smiled and brushed Hermione's fluffy hair, I will send you photos and specialties. I don't believe it. You said before that you wrote letters every day during the summer vacation, but it turned out that I didn't take the initiative to write to you. Hermione put the quill in her hand into the ink bottle and said with a hint of sadness, it's so pity, if I don't take the initiative to write a letter, will you forget me? I don't, pace flies too slowly. Haha. Hermione showed a sarcastic smile, okay, I know you are busy sometimes, but at least let me know where you are, and just ask Pace to send me a letter before you leave. I certainly will. Ryan nodded solemnly and agreed. Unexpectedly, Hermione lowered her head, showed a satisfied smile, and thought to herself, the method given by her mother really works. In the next few days, Ryan would accompany Hermione to review every day, while he continued to refine his travel plan. On the other side, Harry and Ron had to use the invisibility cloak to search for information in the library every night because they were kicked out of the library by Mrs. Pants. It was eventually determined that the rumored basilisk was the murderer. Then the two of them went in recklessly. Harry Potter, we meet again. A very familiar voice sounded in Harry's ears. Harry, who was still rubbing his butt, instantly remembered where the voice belonged. Voldemort. When Ron heard this, he immediately hid behind Harry. Ha, Harry, are you, meaning he is Volume, mysterious man? Ron was trembling all over, holding the wand taped together in front of his chest. It's an honor that you remember me, Harry. I couldn't be happier. While he was talking, a huge snake sprang out from the depths of the secret room. Quick! Close your eyes! Harry shouted, not forgetting that the basilisk's eyes could kill. It seems that you have done a lot of homework. I am very happy. Harry, your parents will also be very happy to see you today. While Voldemort was controlling the basilisk to move its position silently, he kept talking to interfere with Harry's judgment. Voldemort was still wary of this boy who could rebound his own spell. Shut up! I will definitely kill you to avenge my parents. Harry closed his eyes tightly, not letting them open at all, and then based on his own feeling, he shot a disarming spell forward. The disarming spell obviously failed. It's useless, Harry. Everything you do now is in vain, just like a year ago. Do you think you protected the Sorcerer's Stone? Ha ha ha, but I need to thank you. If it weren't for you, I would still be doing this. Worrying about how to get the magic stone in the Mirror of East. Voldemort has been interfering with Harry's judgment. And Harry became more and more anxious and began to blame himself for not being so reckless a year ago. At this moment, there was a gust of wind in Harry's ears, and he had no choice but to try his luck and dodge to the side. But Ron didn't have such good luck. He was hit by the basilisk's tail. The huge force instantly threw Ron out and hit the statue of the giant snake next to him. Harry, he's on your left. Ron shouted, opening his eyes. Close your eyes, Ron. After Harry finished speaking, he cast a disarming spell to the left. However, the disarming spell was completely useless against the unarmed basilisk, not to mention that the basilisk itself was extremely immune to magic. Harry was also swung by the basilisk and lay down next to Ron. At this critical moment, Fawkes rushed to the set singing a song and carrying the sorting hat. Fawkes! Harry shouted in surprise. He had been rescued by Fawkes in the Forbidden Forest before. Then Harry drew the sword of Gryffindor from the sorting hat and killed the basilisk that was blinded by Fawkes's peck. And the remnant soul of Voldemort turned into a black mist and disappeared. Damn it, let him escape again. Harry angrily put the Gryffindor sword stained with the basilisk's blood into the sorting hat again. Early the next morning, on the way to the restaurant, Ryan was surprised to find Filch dismantling the fence blocking the road. Hey, Kes, do you know what's going on? Ryan grabbed Kes who was about to run upstairs and asked. However, he already had a guess at this time that Harry should have killed the basilisk. Without the mastermind behind the scenes, these prevention and control measures will naturally be useless. When we arrived at the restaurant, sure enough, the professors were sitting at the faculty bench with smiles on their faces, talking and laughing, without any of the worries of the past. Quiet, please be quiet, thank you. After asking the little wizards to quiet down, Dumbledore continued, I believe you have also seen that we are dismantling some facilities. You are right, the murderer behind it has been subdued. Dumbledore paused for a moment, and after seeing all the young wizards' attention focused on him, he said, Mr. Harry Potter and Mr. Ron Weasley were extremely brave last night and killed the man behind the scenes. The murderers, but they also suffered some injuries and are recovering in the school hospital. Don't worry, Madame Pomfrey will take good care of them. For that I'll add 150 points to Gryffindor, each. Oh! Cheers erupted from the Gryffindor table. Add these 300 points together, which is enough for Gryffindor to surpass Slytherin and win the Academy Cup. I will end my second year as soon as possible and start a new journey. Chapter 166. The dinner ended with cheers from the other three houses except Slytherin. The little snakes were all dejected. No one spoke during the meal. The entire Slytherin table was immersed in a strange atmosphere. Among them, it forms a sharp contrast with the other three tables. In fact, the Slytherin snakes really hope that the basilisk will always exist, so that this school will truly become their world. The little snakes were very unhappy after losing the Academy Cup and the basilisk today. After dinner, the snakes went back to the common room without saying a word. Ryan, Snape called from the doorway of the Slytherin common room. Professor! Headmaster Dumbledore is looking for you. His command is BB Sugar. After saying that, Snape left with a cold face. Although Ryan was confused as to what Dumbledore was looking for, he still walked to the 8th floor. After arriving on the 8th floor and entering the principal's office, Ryan was in a trance. Dumbledore was currently wearing pajamas and a funny pointed hat with a small pom-pom hanging on the top of the hat. Oh, you know, when you get older, you will always like these cute things. Dumbledore raised his head and suddenly realized. Okay, let's keep the story short. You know, disturbing an old man's sleep is not a good thing. Dumbledore's expression changed, making him look more serious. Please say. Ryan sat in front of Dumbledore, and he could see from Dumbledore's expression that this matter should be very important. Voldemort. Voldemort was parasitic on that basilisk, just like he was parasitic on Quirrell last year. But this time when Harry killed the basilisk, he still let him escape. Dumbledore looked at the little wizard in front of him, said with some vague meaning in his tone, "So I want you to pay attention during your trip." Of course, Voldemort is most likely in the Albanian forest, where Quirrell met him before. This matter is a bit difficult, you can think about it. Professor, why don't you go there yourself? Ryan didn't want to take on this job. Voldemort was just a remnant soul now, and Dumbledore was just a matter of spells in the past. You know, sometimes it's not good to be too famous. People will always pay attention to you wherever you go. Dumbledore shrugged, "Of course, I will pay you." When Ryan heard this, he looked at Dumbledore expectantly. How could Dumbledore not save something good after being the headmaster for so many years? Ahem, okay. Dumbledore didn't expect Ryan to be so direct. "Let me look for it, that's what I used when I was young." With that said, Dumbledore opened his bag and searched inside. "Haha, found it!" Dumbledore exclaimed in surprise and placed a thin sheet of metal on the table. This metal sheet looks entirely silver, but there is a hint of gold looming in it. There were countless small inscriptions engraved on the card, and Ryan felt dizzy after just one glance. This is a general education film. That's how I named it. As for its original name, I don't know it. I found it in a ruins. You only need to wear it on your body and it will allow you to understand anything. A language, at least so far, that I have not encountered that it cannot translate. Of course, this is just an appetizer. Its most important function is to hide your identity as a wizard. Perhaps it was the Muggles who tortured wizards before, so the wizards developed such a thing, which can hide the traces of your spell casting. As he spoke, Dumbledore laughed. "I also took risks when I was young, so I know that sometimes the Ministry of Magic is not trustworthy, so it is necessary to cover up." Ryan nodded and put away the small piece of paper. "Professor, I will go to the Albanian forest to check." Ryan nodded and said, "After receiving money from others, you have to help others do things beautifully." "Thank you, Ryan, honestly, that's great of you to accept," Dumbledore said with a smile. Then, Dumbledore took another fist-shaped medal and placed it on the table. The medal issued by the International Adventure Association allows you to enter the country without reporting. It is a small gift from me, the principal, to the students. You also know how incompetent the officials at the Ministry of Magic are. If you really want to leave, if you enter the country through formal procedures, almost half of a year can be wasted waiting. Ryan picked up the medal and found that there was nothing else on it except a magic spell to verify its authenticity. You only need to enter your own magic power to complete the verification. And don't throw away this medal. It will be troublesome to get a replacement. Dumbledore looked at Ryan, who was playing with the medal, and said. Ryan nodded, and then entered the magic power for verification on the spot. "Okay, Ryan, you can go back to sleep. The sleep of the elderly cannot be disturbed." After saying that, Dumbledore winked at Ryan. Ryan felt a chill and said, "Okay, Professor, good night." "Good night, Ryan." Ryan was walking from the 8th floor to the basement, when suddenly the stairs turned in one direction. "I forgot, today is the day to adjust the position of the stairs." Ryan scratched his head, he was just thinking about the sheet. "Let me out. It's them. They asked me to do this, why only imprison me? I don't accept it, I don't accept it." Sharp sounds echoed on this floor, and Ryan quickly set up a magic shield in front of him. Following the source of the sound, Ryan soon came to a wooden door with only a small window for ventilation. Dong dong dong. Ryan knocked on the door with his hand, and then secretly increased the output of the magic shield. "Who came to save me?" A surprised voice came from inside. Ryan was silent for a moment. He didn't recognize the echo just now, but now he recognized it. It was Peeves' voice. "How did you get caught?" Ryan had already guessed that Peeves was detained here for blowing up the school corridor, but he was still curious about how Peeves was caught. After all, this was the ruthless man who single-handedly forced the then headmaster of Hogwarts to sign a treaty with him, a ruthless ghost. Damn it! It's Filch. He lied to me and said that Dumbledore asked me to come to this room to wait for him, but Filch actually locked me here. Peeves' voice became visibly lowered. "Everywhere around there are also magic forbidden runes, and I can't even fly here. Chapter 167. After listening to Peeves' cry, Ryan left the magic classroom where Peeves was imprisoned with a smile on his face. He wouldn't let Peeves out. This classroom looked like the handiwork of a certain professor, maybe it was really Professor Dumbledore's order. Hello? Hello? Are you still there? Listening to the screams from Peeves behind him, Ryan walked faster. The rest of the journey did not encounter any accidents, and Ryan arrived at the Slytherin common room smoothly. The little snakes all went to bed. The blow they received today was indeed quite big. Because they lost the Academy Cup last year, the little snakes worked extra hard this year, but they couldn't defeat Dumbledore's favoritism. For the next month, Ryan and Hermione spent every day in the library. However, the little girl also knew that the day when Ryan would travel was getting closer, so she later took the initiative to put down her books and accompany Ryan around the school. Several petrified children were also rescued by mature mandrakes, but they preferred to continue to be petrified until the final exam was completed. But soon, a notice was posted. The scores of the petrified little wizards in their final exams were automatically improved by 1 level. In other words, your real grade is an E, but your transcript will have an O. Now even the little snakes were regretting why they were not the ones who were petrified before. But no matter how regretful they were, the day of the final exam finally came, and the 5th grade students became nervous instantly. Because after the final exam, there is the OWL's exam. Haha, how's it going, Kes? Are you sure? Ryan sat at the dining table and laughed unceremoniously as he looked at Kes, who was constantly shaking the spoon like the ant in the cafeteria. Hell, why am I so nervous? Let me tell you, I'm not nervous at all. Really, not at all. I've reviewed so well, how can I be nervous? Kes said several times that he wasn't nervous, but his expression and actions had already given him away. When a spoonful of soup is delivered to your mouth, it is considered good if there is only 1/10 left. Beaver wasn't much better. If Juana hadn't comforted him occasionally, he might have been in such a panic now. Time flies, and whether you like it or not, you still have to take the exam. Hogwarts fell into a relaxed atmosphere after Chris and Beaver entered the examination room with a battlefield attitude and came out of the examination room happily. It will take some time for the transcripts to be issued. There are no classes, no homework, and no exams during this period. It is really a good time to have fun. Coupled with the fact that the school's corridors had been closed for such a long time, and then there were exams, the little wizards had already become frustrated and began to riot wildly in the castle. It wasn't until the transcripts were sent to their hands that they calmed down their wild hearts and looked at their transcripts in frustration. But they soon gave up on their transcripts because they needed to attend the last dinner of the semester. The restaurant was decorated in red and gold today, with the Gryffindor flag flying in the sky. The little lions walked into the restaurant with smiles on their faces, and then cheered at the courtyard flag on the ceiling. The little snakes had a straight face as soon as they came in and sat motionless on the dining table. No matter how loud the Gryffindor side cheered, they couldn't move them. After finishing a dinner mechanically, the semester is over. The students cheered, but soon turned into wails because of the holiday homework in their hands. There are a lot of homework assignments during this year's holiday, which is more than double that of previous holidays. Perhaps the professors have realized the great power of homework. This year, due to the lockdown, professors assigned a large amount of homework to students. As a result, students' scores increased so much that professors couldn't believe it. Hell, why are there so many homeworks? Kes was lying on the sofa in the common room, exuding an aura of decadence. I originally planned to take the members of the Mutual Aid Association to start some side business, but now it seems that is unlikely. Beaver also said sadly. The side job he mentioned was the next reason to go out and date Juana. Look at my homework sheet. Ryan handed over his homework sheet, his tone full of temptation. Kes and Beaver took it in confusion, looked at the homework list, then looked at Ryan, and said with idiotic expressions on their faces, "Isn't this double?" Ryan took the homework list from their hands, then tore it into pieces in front of them, and finally threw it into the sky. The piece of paper fell slowly, landing on the astonished faces of Chris and Beaver. Cool. Kes said blankly. But what about your summer homework? You didn't finish it when school started, but... Beaver looked at Ryan's proud smile and closed his mouth. Okay, good night, everyone, I'm going to bed. Ryan turned around, waved his hand and returned to his dormitory. Although Ryan will not come to school next year, because he is on leave of absence, this dormitory will still be reserved for him until the time expires or Ryan completes the withdrawal procedures. The next day, Ryan and Hermione took a train back to London. The little girl was not in high spirits and huddled in Ryan's arms the whole time. However, with Ryan's constant assurances, the little girl finally let go of Ryan's hand, waved to him, and walked through the stone wall back to King's Cross Station. Ryan went to the three brothers' cabin, preparing to receive the latest information and give instructions on the work for the next year. "Are you saying that the Corey family plans to attack a small gold mine owned by the Orr family recently?" Ryan asked, looking at Richie who was kneeling in front of him. "Yes, the secret method given by the master is too powerful, so the Corey family's strength has expanded greatly now, but what? It's just that they are a little bit..." Richie glanced at Ryan and said hesitantly, "Something is not normal." "No need to worry, this is a normal situation." Ryan patted Rich on the shoulder, and after asking the three brothers to pay more attention to the Corey family, he left the three brothers' house. He is very satisfied with the development of the Corey family, and the fruits are expected to be harvested soon. Next, he went back to his cabin in the woods, where he still had a pudding to arrange. After Pudding heard about Ryan's plan, he originally planned to follow Ryan and serve him. But later on, under Ryan's suggestion, Pudding decided to live on the plantation and come back every Sunday to clean the cabin in the forest. The adventure begins tomorrow. Chapter 168. Egypt, Cairo, inside the Egyptian Museum. A group of people obviously dressed as tourists followed a woman obviously dressed as a tour guide. "Everyone, this is the exhibition hall from the ancient kingdom of Egypt, where various statues are stored." The female tour guide held up the flag in her hand and wore a loudspeaker as she explained endlessly. Ryan yawned and took a photo of various statues, which he was going to send to Hermione. The collections in the Egyptian Museum can be touched, but photos cannot be taken. If you want to take photos, you need to purchase a photography license separately. And if you want to enter the Mummy Exhibition Hall, you need to buy an additional ticket. However, as long as you purchase a ticket, you can enter again on the same day. Reen directly operate into Egypt, but no matter what, when you come to a strange place, you must first visit the local scenic spots. So after walking around Cairo twice and dealing with a few warm-hearted people who offered warmth, Ryan followed the tour group in front of him. You can have a lot of fun playing by yourself, and you can have a lot of fun playing with a group. I can only say that each has its own pros and cons. Ryan spent a long time wandering around the museum. He could only say that the International Statute of Wizarding Secrecy was still very powerful. There was nothing related to magic in the museum. After the tour guide introduced the exhibition room, he led the team towards the Mummy Exhibition Hall, while Ryan walked outside. He didn't buy a ticket to the Mummy Exhibition Hall. The money given by those kind-hearted people was not enough. Walking outside, he followed the route in his memory and came to a small restaurant. This was the news he found out after wandering around Cairo twice. "There is a good delicacy here, grilled pigeon meat. Egyptian pigeons are about the size of young chickens. Roasted pigeons are usually stuffed with green wheat and rice. The pigeon meat is thin, very tasty, and roasted with moderate fatness and leanness, crispy and delicious." After finishing a delicious lunch, Ryan rushed to the Pyramid of Khufu outside Cairo. When you come to Egypt, why can't you see the world-famous Pyramid of Khufu? And next to it is his son's pyramid, the Pyramid of Khafra, the one with the Sphinx. Ryan's destination was the Pyramid of Khafra. After all, according to the wizard's records, the Sphinx was originally the product of the Animagus's failed transformation, and there might be some ruins there. The total volume of the Khafra pyramid is almost 163 cubic meters, and the space inside the tower is less than 1/10,000th. Ryan believes that there is definitely something hidden by the Egyptian Ministry of Magic. Sure enough, outside the Pyramid of Khafra, Ryan saw two wizards guarding an extremely narrow entrance. All tourists coming and going subconsciously ignored the two wizards and the entrance. Ryan cast an invisibility spell on himself, and then walked in front of the two wizards. Inside is a corridor that goes as far as the eye can see, with torches burning on the walls on both sides. Trap detection, secret passage detection, secret room detection. Although this place has been developed by the Ministry of Magic and there is a high probability that there is no danger, but out of caution, Ryan still explored the inside of the corridor beforehand. Sure enough, all the traps were eliminated, all the secret rooms and secret passages were opened, and no oil or water was left at all. Ryan curled his lips and cast a levitation spell on himself to prevent the Ministry of Magic staff inside from noticing his footsteps. If anyone could enter here by mistake, they would definitely be shocked. In the empty corridor, a mysterious man wearing a black robe floated in mid-air, moving forward silently. Ryan took out the black robe only after he entered the pyramid. It has a defensive circle engraved on it, which can be used to deal with some emergencies. As he walked, Ryan realized something was wrong, because he found that the scenery in front of him seemed to have not changed. It had always been corridors and torches. This is obviously wrong, unless the invisible stretch spell is solidified here. Ryan felt it for a while and found that another space formation was solidified here. Its main function was to straighten the originally curved corridor in space. So Ryan floated for a long time, but he was actually just spinning around in a circular corridor. It's interesting. Ryan smiled and then pushed open the door of the secret passage next to him. This place is completely different from the previous corridor. There are no torches on the walls on both sides, replaced by various statues. Ryan looked at these statues in detail, describing the mysterious army magic under Pharaoh Professor Khafra. The two statues at the end describe in detail a method of releasing magic called Magic Ball. With the help of the general knowledge sheet given by Dumbledore, Ryan easily read the content on it. But soon, Ryan lost interest in this spell. The way to release the magic ball is extremely simple, which is to condense its own magic power, form a ball outside, and then throw it out. At the top of the corridor is a stone door, which is so smooth that it doesn't even have a knocker. But this time the trap detection responded. There is a magic mechanism arranged on this stone door, and it seems that it has not been opened yet. After opening his magic vision, Ryan saw clearly the flashing blue circuit on the door. This is an incomplete magic circle. Only by completing it can the magic circuit on the door be opened and the stone door can be opened. Ryan stared at the magic circuit on the door, memorized it in his mind, and then turned back. He plans to use the Book of All Laws to transform it into a complete Egyptian magic circle from the Khafra period when he returns later. There must be records about this magic circuit in it. Reen turned back to the corridor and once again pushed open the door of a secret room, then closed it again. It was so empty that even the mice would shed tears when they came. Next, Ryan explored all the secret rooms and secret passages in the corridor and obtained 3 incomplete magic circles. The Ministry of Magic probably wasn't sure about repairing these 3 magic circles, so they allowed them to be preserved to this day. But now everything is cheaper for Ryan. Just when Ryan was about to go out, there was a sudden sound of footsteps outside. Phase teleportation. But Ryan did not teleport out, but used magic to hide in the phase space. This is a new spell usage developed by Ryan. The advantage is that you can appear at the teleportation location with a thought, you can also instantly cancel the spell and appear at the same place, and you can also hide in the phase space and monitor the movements outside. Okay, everyone, this is the resting place of Pharaoh Khafra. There is a solidified inside this corridor. There was a voice outside, and the content of the voice was very familiar to Ryan. After all, he had been playing with it all morning. But it was obvious that this was a tour group from the wizarding world. Ryan had a second thought and returned to his hotel in Cairo. Chapter 169. This hotel is relatively small, and there is a thick layer of oil on the dining table. But the advantage is that the price is cheap, and no additional documents are required to check in. Ryan walked downstairs and said something to the aunt at the front desk, who then muttered to inform the kitchen. This is also the second benefit of this hotel, that is, meals are always available. But it's just a very ordinary home-cooked side dish, not a big meal, but it can give you a good experience of Egypt's local cuisine. Soon, a plate of kuzeri was served. Kuzeri is a local delicacy in Egypt. It is usually fried with rice, hollow noodles, black lentils, tomato sauce, etc. This kind of thing can be seen in the streets and alleys. Ryan quickly finished the plate of kuzeri, and it tasted pretty good. After eating, Ryan went directly back to his room. The aunt at the front desk mumbled again and took away the plate, then wiped the soup on the table. After returning to the room, Ryan took out the Book of 10,000 Dirhams from his mind. At this time, the Book of 10,000 Dirhams had changed greatly. On the cover is a man with golden rings on his hands and feet, holding a whip, and next to him are a group of naked people kneeling on the ground. Ah, it has the charm of ancient Egypt. Ryan murmured, then opened the book and started reading. The book is not just a series of magic circuits, but is occasionally mixed with some mysterious words and sentences praising Khafra. Obviously, this is a common method used by rulers to inform their subordinates. After Ryan filtered out those meaningless sentences, complete and smooth sentences were immediately displayed. In the book, Ryan learned that the 3 magic circuits represented recovery, strengthening, and energy gathering respectively. Ryan instantly guessed Pharaoh Khafra's intention. He probably wanted to use the energy gathering circuit to power the other 2 circuits, and the strengthening circuit to provide enhancements to the other 2 circuits. As for the recovery circuit, that was every pharaoh's wish. It seems that no matter how great a wizard is, he cannot avoid the desire to be resurrected. Ryan closed the book and put him back in his mind. Wait a minute, he's a wizard. Only then did Ryan notice the crux of the matter. Originally, he thought Khafra was just a Muggle ruler, and then recruited some wizards to work for him. Unexpectedly, he turned out to be a wizard himself. Then, he should have a lot of treasures. Ryan touched his smooth chin. How many good things could a pharaoh save? This is a good question. After looking at the sky outside, Ryan took a shower and went to bed. Recharge your batteries and prepare for tomorrow's adventure. As for the other content in the book, I still have plenty of time anyway, so I can read it slowly in the future. Early the next morning, after washing up and having breakfast downstairs, Ryan paid off his rent. Ryan planned to rescue him after exploring the Pyramid of Khafra, because he had a hunch that this expedition might cause a lot of noise. Arriving at the entrance of the pyramid again, the 2 wizards who originally guarded the entrance had disappeared. There were no restrictions at the entrance, it was just open. It seems that the Ministry of Magic has deemed that there is no development value inside the pyramid. The 2 wizards I saw yesterday, presumably because someone was coming to visit in the afternoon, they randomly dispatched 2 people to show off. After all, when tourists come to the scenic spot and find that there is no staff here, what do you want the tourists to think? A scenic spot that even the locals don't pay much attention to, no matter how beautiful it is, may make tourists feel uncomfortable after the visit. But this is just right, as it saves Ryan an extra magic spell. After entering the pyramid, Ryan quickly ran towards the secret passage where the recovery circuit was located. After repairing the circuit, he came to strengthen the circuit. However, when repairing the strengthening circuit, he secretly made some small moves. When using magic power to connect the circuit, he deliberately controlled the output of magic power and made the connection line very small. This can play a role in controlling the amount of magic power, preventing the circuit from taking effect, and preventing the resurrected Khafra from being too powerful. It's not that he's afraid of not being able to beat him, but that if he hits too hard and injures the pyramid, then Ryan will have no other choice but to apparate away from the road in an instant. As for why Ryan speculated that Khafra would be resurrected. Recovery, strengthening, and energy supply, what other effects can these 3 things have when put together? After Ryan connected the last energy supply circuit, the entire secret passage began to emit blue light. Whispers began to ring in Ryan's ears, like the cries of the dead. A portal suddenly appeared at the end of the corridor that was originally in the circulation space. On the door is written, "You have resurrected me, and I will give you wealth and glory." Ryan curled his lips, opened the door and walked in. The door is filled with all kinds of silver and gold, but the cursed smell permeating it declares that this treasure is not easy to get along with. Old trick. Ryan kicked a piece of gold away from his feet and landed on the wall far away, making a dong sound. However, Ryan still inspected the treasure house carefully. After all, a place that can be hidden by Khafra's magic must have its own uniqueness. But that was not the case. If it were not for the curse on the gold, Ryan would have even thought that this was a Muggle's treasure trove. With doubts, Ryan pushed open the door leading deeper. "Leave with the treasure, or open the door and welcome death." Ryan looked at the words on the door and read it out, "It's similar to 'Those who disturb my rest will die' or something like that." Behind the door is a dark corridor, and there are no torches on the wall. The dark hole seemed to be hiding something, and Ryan instinctively felt something was wrong. Fluorescence. A small ball of light flew from Ryan's palm toward the darkness in the distance, illuminating the entire corridor. And Ryan also opened the magic vision. Every floor tile in the corridor is covered with magic circles, and judging from their complexity, they are probably quite powerful. In addition, the bright light produced by the light ball seems to attract some strange things. Ryan slowly floated himself up, then carefully adjusted his position, and finally ejected instantly like a rubber spring. Woohoo! Without triggering any magic circle, Ryan passed through the corridor easily. Spatial dislocation. After using magic to get rid of the huge-looking centipede next to him, Ryan once again stood in front of a stone door. What's this feeling about a brave game? Ryan scratched his head. Chapter 170. Opening the door, there is a huge hall inside. 12 pillars are divided into 2 rows, standing inside the hall. The lower half of the pillar is carved with various animals, and the upper half is filled with various inscriptions. The floor is very smooth, without a trace of dust. Thousands of years of time seem to have lost their effect here. There were sparkling stars on the top of the hall, but Ryan understood that this must be the effect of magic. Ryan, who had studied astronomy, could tell at a glance that the starry sky at the top of the hall was exactly the same as the current starry sky. It's incredible, for such a long time, the stars must have shifted. This means that either Khafra has the ability to communicate with the outside world for such a long time, or he predicted the starry sky today for thousands of years. There is also a possibility that after Ryan repaired the energy gathering circuit, he scanned the entire sky and drew the current star map. No matter which possibility it is, it indicates that Khafra is not easy to deal with. Ryan continued to float in the air, with a few rays of blue light flashing from time to time in his eyes. This was the ultimate expression of magical vision. This was his first serious adventure. If he capsized in the gutter like this, he would be laughed at. The entire hall was clearly visible in Ryan's eyes, but to Ryan's surprise, except for the magic that simulated the star chart on the ceiling and the magic that kept the hall clean, there were no traces of other magic here. From the moment you enter the gate, there is always an unusual atmosphere here. Ryan quietly deployed the magic shield and cast an iron armor spell on himself. In the empty hall, a black figure floated in the air and moved forward without a sound. Ryan listened to his heartbeat and suddenly felt something was wrong. He heard his own heartbeat before, but thought the surroundings were too quiet. But it was obviously not the case now, the heartbeat was too loud. No, it's not my heartbeat, it's just the same frequency as my heartbeat. Ryan instantly discovered the mystery. Ryan quickly ran towards the source of the sound. After walking through a corridor, Ryan came to a disgusting room. In the center of the room was a large red sphere, with a black figure faintly visible inside. The red sphere is also connected to hundreds of red silk threads, and at the other end of the threads are hundreds of corpses. A hole was opened at the heart of the corpse, and the red silk thread was inserted into this hole. Ryan raised his hand, and a blue flame fell from his hand. After the blue flame fell to the ground, it quickly spread to the things next to it. This was Li Huo. After a while, almost 1/3 of the corpses in the room were contaminated by the fire, and a burning smell mixed with a foul stench began to permeate the room. The red sphere in the center of the room seemed to know that delaying it any longer would be detrimental to itself, and began to flicker uneasily. As it flashed, a strong and powerful heartbeat came out. Every time it beats, some of the surrounding corpses explode into blood mist and are absorbed by the sphere, but some of the blood mist just disappears into the air. In the end, half of this body was burned by the fierce fire and half was absorbed by the sphere. Thunderbolt explosion, split to pieces, wind blade, fiery spear, dimensional blade. Ryan kept attacking the sphere in the center, but every time the attack was close to the sphere would always flash, and the magic spell released by Ryan would disappear. At the same time, the size of the sphere will also shrink a little. This is the conclusion that Ryan came to after bombarding him wildly. That's enough. A beautiful, reassuring and domineering voice sounded. Ryan raised his hand, opened his palm in the direction of the burning fire, and then waved in the direction of the ball. The blue flames that were still burning on the corpse instantly gathered together, crossed the space, and fell on the sphere. A burst of light flashed, Li Huo disappeared, and the originally large red ball shrank by almost 1/10. It seems we need to add a little more. Ryan once again released the calming fire spell. But this time, Ryan's idea failed. The red sphere quickly shrank and turned into a red cloak draped behind the black figure in the sphere. It seems that you are not satisfied with the reward I have prepared for you, so I decided to give you something else, and that is to grant you death. After the black figure was revealed, Ryan could completely see his appearance. The first thing that caught his eye was a bald head with a clean face without a trace of hair. What a disgusting look! The resurrected Pharaoh Khafra clearly noticed Ryan's sizing eyes. As a ruler, it was the first time that he received sizing from a person at the bottom, which made him a little unhappy. Especially if you are not wearing a wig. The ancient Egyptians had extremely obsessive requirements for their own hair. They would shave their hair, eyebrows, etc., then wear wigs and draw eyebrows. After Khafra finished speaking, he calmly took out a wig from his pocket and put it on his head quite elegantly. Of course, Ryan was not idle during this period and cast 7 or 8 spells on Khafra in succession. But it was all blocked by a thin red light curtain. Ryan realized that Khafra must have powerful magic equipment on him. "Do you have any last words for the great god to take action?" Khafra said calmly, then raised his hands. Ryan was alert and flashed instantly, appearing behind Khafra. However, where Ryan was originally standing, 2 handprints appeared out of thin air. Fire is raging. Seeing the resurrected Khafra, Ryan subconsciously thought of those dark creatures in movies and TV shows who were afraid of fire and light. Holy light bullet and holy light prison. Stupid, have you forgotten who I am? I, the son of the sun god Amun, the agent and incarnation of God on earth. You actually want to defeat me with fire and light? Haha, you are a fool. As soon as the orange-red flame left Ryan's hand, it immediately rushed toward Ryan. Isn't this wrong? Ryan was a little confused. It was said that monsters and ghosts were afraid of fire and light, so why did they change when they got here? I wanted to go back to my thoughts, but my body movements were not slow at all, and I left the room in a flash. The interior of the house is still too small, making it difficult to move around. In the empty hall that originally had only pillars, Ryan's figure suddenly appeared, followed by endless flames. Insect, please become a sacrifice to my god. Water curtain Tianhua. A stream of azure water suddenly appeared, enveloping Ryan in it. If fire and light don't work, what about water and darkness? Ryan raised his arms and began to chant a spell. Chapter 171. The air suddenly rippled, and a purple gas began to appear in Ryan's sight. Magic curse, this is a curse that can consume the magic power in the enemy's body. The most important thing is that he can invade the enemy's body silently under certain circumstances. The flames intersected with the water flow surrounding Ryan, and the entire underground hall was instantly filled with water vapor. Thanks to the obstruction of water vapor, Khafra didn't notice a hint of purple aura in front of Ryan at all. Ryan pushed the purple air gently, and the purple air automatically merged into the water around Ryan. With the generation of water vapor, the purple gas was evaporated into the air unconsciously. Hot! Khafra's voice sounded again. As his voice fell, the surrounding air began to become distorted, and a high temperature made the water around Ryan evaporate happier. Give up your resistance. Mortals cannot defeat gods. Although you are a foreigner, as a reward for awakening Pharaoh, I can allow you to become my people. Khafra looked at Ryan hiding in the water. Said coldly. Serial plasma balls. Purple electric lights suddenly jumped out of the air, and then purple plasma balls appeared in the air one after another, and continued to move according to Ryan's command. It seems that after sleeping for so many years, you don't have a complete understanding of the outside world. Ryan said with a smile, but without stopping, he controlled the plasma ball to run towards the direction of Khafra. Ryan himself left his original position by flickering. The fog of disappearance. The invisible fog can prevent the releaser's body and voice from being detected by enemies. At the same time, it can detect the enemy's location. Your Excellency Khafra, don't you think what you are saying and doing now is a bit ridiculous? Lord Khafra, your great enemy is dead. Haha, it seems that you still have illusions. Is this new fog giving you confidence? Or are you stalling for time with me and waiting for rescue from outside? I advise you not to think too much. Here is the moment I woke up, it was closed to me. Thank you very much for that. Khafra looked at the layers of fog in front of him and frowned in frustration. Ryan's cleverness at the beginning really affected Khafra, and then Ryan burned half of the blood corpses he used to resurrect, and then used magic to consume the blood cells. Today's Khafra, the magic power in his body is not even 1/10 of what it was at its peak. In addition, he also had to avoid the plasma ball controlled by Ryan at this time, so there was really no good way to hide Ryan. You forced me to do this. Khafra became a little upset and angry. Ryan's plasma ball kept chasing him. If Ryan was not dealt with, he would be consumed by the plasma ball controlled by Ryan. When Ryan heard this, he immediately felt that something was wrong. This was obviously a prelude to amplifying the move. Without any further hesitation, Ryan immediately activated the magical curse that had just been emitted. Is there a curse in the air? Khafra smiled happily. Why didn't you take away my treasure? Is it because of the curse above? Damn it! Ryan cursed secretly. He had forgotten that the ancient Egyptians were also good at curses. Plasma ball, explode. Ryan was too lazy to argue with Khafra anymore and directly detonated the plasma balls around Khafra. The explosion tore the plasma ball into pieces, and arcs of electricity were faintly visible in the void. Khafra accidentally touched him once, and the place he touched was instantly paralyzed. Wind explosive slash, undead strengthening, ice blade and water blade. 2 spells were used instantly by Ryan. The violent wind blast summons a small tornado within a certain range, which is mixed with a large number of wind blades. The user can also add other attack methods by himself. Undead enhancement allows the caster's spells to bring a hint of undead aura. As long as the wound is contaminated, the undead aura will penetrate into the blood along the wound and flow throughout the body as the blood flows. At the same time, the breath of the undead will also transform the human body, making it gradually undead. You don't think I left this palace just for the sake of its beauty, do you? Khafra first sneered out of habit, then raised his hands, faced the stars in the sky, and shouted loudly, "Shine, my starry sky!" Although he didn't know why the pharaoh, who claimed to be the son of the sun god, would use the stars as his trump card, Ryan knew very well that he must not let him cast a spell successfully. After all, Khafra had been pharaoh for so many years. This trump card must have been made by gathering the strength of the whole country of Egypt. Ryan did not want to try it. Space explosion. Ryan did not release Khafra because he still missed Khafra's treasure. He released this magic spell at the ceiling, and the space began to distort, and one star after another turned into nothing under the power of the void. But Khafra didn't care at all. He was concentrating on maintaining his own defensive magic to fight against Ryan's hurricane and communicating with the stars in the sky. Soon, Ryan discovered that a large amount of magic power suddenly appeared in the star map on the ceiling. This magic power did not stir up the magic circle, but all poured into the sparkling stars. This star turns out to be a magic prop. It's just that the runes originally outlined in it were too dense, so that in the magic vision, they were seen as a whole by Ryan, making him think that it was just an ordinary stone that glowed with magic. The star's light suddenly became dozens of times brighter than before, allowing Ryan to clearly see its light even if he was hiding in the fog. Boo-hoo! Lasers suddenly fell from the ceiling, hitting a small crater on the floor. But Ryan's space shock is still generating the power of the void, destroying stars one after another. Upon seeing this, Ryan couldn't help but increase the magic output to the storm, causing the storm that was originally intended to rotate around Khafra to become grounded from the sky. For a moment, Khafra's shield was in danger. Space blockade! Damn it! I curse you, and I curse your relatives and friends to not have a good death in this life. I curse you, and wherever you go, you will be shrouded in misfortune. I curse you, and the people you come into contact with will all be lonely and widowed. Generation. After Khafra failed to escape, he used his last bit of magic power to curse Ryan. Temple Gospel. A ray of white light fell from the sky, fell on Ryan, and resisted the curse shot by Khafra. Have a nice trip, Sir Khafra. Ryan removed the fog, waved his hand towards Khafra, and watched as Khafra was hit by a wind blade in the hurricane. It's not easy to finally die. Ryan wiped the sweat from his forehead, and then released a purification technique on Khafra's body. He didn't forget that he had released a necromantic strengthening before. Chapter 172. Ryan first used a floating spell on Khafra's waist pocket, but unfortunately, it failed. Bending down, he took the pocket in his hand and inspected it carefully. Ryan was a little doubtful about life and exclaimed, "Forbidden magic array? How did he carve a storage array inside the forbidden magic array? This is not magic." But this was obviously not a good place to get to the bottom of it, so Ryan could only put aside his curiosity and put the bag away. Then, Ryan used the levitation spell to levitate himself and raised the laser-releasing device on the ceiling. It is rare to see such a magic instrument with such dense runes that it can be seen as a whole in the magic vision. At least this is the first time Ryan has seen it. After completing the search in the main hall, Ryan began to search the side hall next to it. In the end, he obtained 10 metal plates with written words on them, but Ryan did not look into the specific contents, 7 magic props that could still be used, but the specific functions were not tested, and finally there were some metal materials. As for the potions, herbs, etc. in stock, they were all reduced to ashes under the action of time. Ryan collected all these things and then put Khafra's body into the coffin he had prepared. After all, after taking so many things from him, it was appropriate for him to leave with dignity. This was what Ryan discovered in Khafra's pocket. This great monarch had long been prepared to be killed after his resurrection. Place the coffin in the room where Khafra was originally resurrected, then close the door and click the mechanism on the door. In an instant, a huge amount of magic energy emitted, and Ryan could feel that everything in the room had been teleported away. Damn it, with such a powerful magic power, even the Egyptian Ministry of Magic can see it as long as they are not blind. Let's go. Ryan waved his hand, then stood awkwardly, looking at the power button in front of him. Damn it, I shouldn't have given you any dignity. Ryan stamped his feet, but he didn't expect that he would actually show off to others in the end. The entire pyramid has fallen into a state of space blockade. Ryan just tried to apparate away, but failed. Flicker. Ryan tried again, failed. Space teleportation. Fail. At this time, Ryan suddenly noticed that someone had entered the pyramid. Without thinking too much, it must be someone from the Ministry of Magic. Phase teleportation. Fortunately, although the phase transmission was seriously interfered with, it could still be used. What's more, Ryan doesn't need to teleport very far, he only needs to teleport to Cairo. As for the Ministry of Magic, Ryan believed that the cursed treasures at the beginning would be enough to delay them for a while. In a small alley in Cairo City, Ryan's figure suddenly appeared. Several homeless people sitting on the ground next to them stared at the incredible scene in front of them with their eyes wide open and their mouths open. Ah, sorry. Ryan raised his hand, modified the memories of these homeless people, then threw a few small pieces of gold in front of the homeless people, and left the alley. He believed that even if a few homeless people found something wrong with what happened today, they would not dare to spread the word. After all, it was gold. As long as a little bit of news leaked out, who knows how many people would target them. In the large city of Cairo, if a few homeless people were missing from a dark corner, no one would notice at all. Ryan came to a small alley full of garbage. This was the entrance to the largest magic street in Egypt. Damn it, do all wizards have such unique tastes? The leaky cauldron is dirty and messy, why is it even more disgusting here? Ryan cast an air-freshening spell on himself to filter out the stench that had been fermenting for an unknown length of time, and then walked forward along a path among the garbage. At the end of the alley is a patterned wall. Ryan took out the black wizard robe and covered himself so that outsiders could not see his identity. Then he took out his wand and tapped on the center of the pattern. A blue light door instantly appeared on the wall. Ryan looked behind him and walked in directly after seeing no one. Ryan only felt a trance, and the scenery in front of him completely changed. The first thing you see are stalls one after another, followed by the shops on both sides. The most eye-catching one is Gringotts at the top of the street. Many of the wizards coming and going on the street wore black robes like Ryan. Most of these wizards came to deal with some inconvenient things. Although there are no magic schools in Egypt, they do have specialized training institutions that can provide professional training for personnel gaps. For example, if there is a shortage of aurors, then young wizards will be recruited for training. Once they are qualified, they can take up their posts. The benefit is the graduation package distribution. The disadvantage is that training institutions will only teach relevant knowledge and will not give you a comprehensive range of popular magic knowledge like Hogwarts. This also means that an auror will always be an auror and will never become the Minister of Magic one day, because he does not have knowledge about management. Ryan looked at everything in front of him with interest. Rather than visiting stores, Ryan preferred visiting small street stalls. Ryan first went to the street management office nearby and bought a magic blanket from there for 5 cents. This magic blanket is proof that you can set up a street stall, and the validity period is 1 day. After a day, the magic wears off and you need to buy another blanket. But don't worry, if you have too many blankets at home, you won't be able to use them all. Don't worry, the street management office also provides blanket recycling services, and 1 blanket is enough. In fact, after all, the stall collects tax of 4 cents per day. He spread the blanket in an empty space, took out all the useless stuff from Khafra's pocket, placed it on the stall, and put up a sign next to it, only for exchange, not for sale. Then Ryan sat aside and closed his eyes to relax. After all, Ryan is not short of gold galleons, what he wants now are those weird gadgets. Maybe it was because Ryan's price was a little low, or maybe these things were really good enough. In short, in 2 or 3 hours, all Ryan's things were replaced. The harvested items were also all kinds of, including strange black magic items, a few wands confiscated from dark wizards, and even black magic books. When Ryan got the exchange, he glanced at the person who exchanged it in surprise. Most of these people were wearing black robes, but Ryan guessed that they should be aurors from the Ministry of Magic, and perhaps a few real dark wizards. Immediately after Ryan's last item was sold, several young men came out from the side. "Friend, you've sold out all your stuff. Do you still need this blanket? If not, sell it to me. By the way, I'll pay 2 cents. I'll give you 2 kilos and 10 cats." Finally, the price stopped at 3 sykes and 20 cats. After taking the money, Ryan also gave the blanket to a man in gorgeous clothes. Chapter 173. After giving up his stall to others, Ryan began to wander around the street. When he encountered some curious items, he would go up and ask about them. However, the food on the stall outside was not that good, which made Ryan realize how much he had been taken advantage of by his previous behavior. Good things like that should be sold in stores instead of setting up stalls outside. But fortunately, at least Ryan felt that he had not lost anything in exchange for so many things. However, there are also many interesting things on the small stalls, such as the one Ryan is looking at right now. The stall in front of Ryan was filled with jars that looked exactly the same. The stall owner was a fat man with a gentle expression. When he saw Ryan, he didn't even look at buying them. Instead, he kept telling Ryan about the origins of these things. "I'm telling you, these things are all brought from those pyramids. What if the Ministry of Magic wants to develop the pyramids and doesn't have the manpower? They can only ask us for help. The Ministry of Magic has no money and doesn't want to pay salaries. So what can we do? It can only allow us to bring some things out from inside. But we can't bring too much, can't we go too far? How about you, do you want to buy some jars? A black jar costs 10 cents, a silver jar costs 10 cents, and a gold jar costs 1 galleons. Don't worry, it's definitely worth the money." The stall owner next to him didn't feel annoyed when he saw the fat man talking and just looked at him with a smile. "Okay, let's buy a few to play with." Ryan looked at the stall owner with a smile, then took out a few galleons and handed them to the stall owner. When the stall owners nearby saw this, they ignored their own stalls and ran over to watch in a daze. "Well, the jar on the far left is good. I think there must be something good in it." "Nonsense, the jar next to him obviously contains something good. From such a distance, I can feel the magic inside." Ryan smiled and picked the jars at the stall. In fact, the contents of the jars had already been clearly seen by Ryan through his magic vision. First, he selected the 2 jars with the strongest magic power, and then randomly selected a few jars with magical reactions. In the end, he found that the value of the jars he took was slightly more than the money he gave. "It's okay, I'll give the extra to you. You can open it here or take it back to open it." The fat stall owner looked at Ryan with a smile. The income of a few galleons was enough for him to repay his capital. In fact, the Ministry of Magic recruited temporary workers to explore the pyramids mostly to do menial jobs, which was not dangerous at all. These things on the stall now were all made by him in one go. You can earn several galleons from doing this once. Thinking of this, the fat stall owner almost laughed out of his eyes. "Then I'd better take it back and open it." Ryan put all the jars into the traceless stretch bag, then turned and left the stall. When the stall owners around saw that there was no excitement to watch, they all sighed and returned to their stalls to continue looking at the stalls. After visiting the small stalls, Ryan walked into the store. Compared to the outside, what is sold inside the store is the best. As soon as Ryan entered the first store, this idea suddenly appeared in his heart. "Guest, what do you need?" "Velvet, snake fangs, dried scorpions, sandwind grass, etc., our store has them all." The clerk in the store was looking down at the account book. Hearing the sound of the door opening, he raised his head and said to Ryan with a smile. "Venomous snake fangs? Are there venomous fangs of an eagle-tailed snake?" Ryan asked. The eagle-tailed snake is a venomous snake with feathers on its tail. According to legend, it was created by ancient wizards by crossing an eagle and a venomous snake. When this kind of snake crawls, the feathers on its tail will stick to the ground, hiding the traces of its own movement, so this kind of eagle-tailed snake is extremely difficult to catch. Of course, guest, although you may not like it when you say this, if you can't buy something at Luoluo Herbal Medicine Shop, you can't buy it anywhere else. The guy's face was filled with pride. "How much?" An inexplicable domineering force came out from behind Ryan, shocking the guy who was still bragging. Hug. I'm sorry, guest, the boss has to make the decision. I'll go find the boss right now, please wait a moment. After speaking, he called to a young man who was still cleaning the floor next to him, Taha, pour a cup of good coffee for this distinguished guest. The young man immediately put down his work and fumbled over a cup of coffee. After putting down the coffee, he immediately went to mop the floor without raising his head the whole time. Ryan glanced at him, but didn't say anything. He just drank his coffee. 3 minutes later, a middle-aged man wearing a white silk scarf and dark skin came out and sat in front of Ryan. 70 galleons for a tooth, what do guests think? When the boss came out, he didn't make excuses and spoke straight to the point. How much do you have? When the boss heard that it was a big deal, he said excitedly, I have 11 more. I want them all. Ryan's frivolous words made the boss want to slap his ears. Why didn't he ask for more before? After Ryan paid the money and took the 11 fangs from the boss, he turned around and left the store. After shopping around for a while, Ryan finally found something that interested him in another shop selling magic equipment. The stars on the ceiling of the main hall of Khafra's pyramid. The crystal is now placed on purple velvet, surrounded by magic glass used to seal it. What, you want to buy it? The shop owner saw Ryan staring at the crystal and said with a smile, I won't sell it. I may be the only one in Egypt who has the tears of the sun god. Ryan glanced at the store owner, then turned his head and began to look at other items in the store. The shop owner burst out laughing. He met 2 or 3 customers like Ryan who came for tears of the sun god every day. What he likes to see most is the depressed look on the customer's face after knowing that the tears of the sun god are not for sale. It gave him a sense of pride. Do you still have the recipe for making tears of the sun god for sale here? Ryan pointed to a small wooden board in front of him and asked with some doubts and surprise. Yes, this is deciphered by the Ministry of Magic based on the documents unearthed in the pyramid. For only 20 galleons, this formula that can create the legendary tears of the sun god is yours. Although the store manager's smile made Ryan feel that he had bad intentions, Ryan didn't need to be able to make it. He only needed to know the steps to make it, so that he wouldn't have to work backwards. Here you go. Ryan ordered 20 galleons and put them on the cabinet. Please put it away. The store manager also took a stack of paper filled with writing and placed it on the counter. Ryan got it and glanced at it casually, feeling that he had been tricked. Chapter 174. To make tears of the sun god, you first need the following materials. A crystal with magic power. Ice blue grass / 3 plants, extinct 300 years ago. Griffin tooth / 50G, extinct 50 years ago. Unicorn horn / 2, banned by the Ministry of Magic. A small handful of ice rabbit fur, banned by the Ministry of Magic in Iceland. From the beginning to the end, Ryan saw that there were only a few items that could be purchased normally, and most of them were either extinct or banned from sale by the Ministry of Magic. After giving the shopkeeper a strange look, the shopkeeper immediately laughed and said, I can guarantee that this recipe is completely correct. Haha. Ryan gave a fake smile, then turned and left the store. Before leaving, he slammed the store door with a loud bang. It would be fine if there were only a few hard-to-get materials, but the key point is that almost half of the materials above are in an extinct state. The store manager looked at Ryan who was leaving angrily, laughed twice with a slightly profiteer-like hee-hee, and pulled the galleons on the counter into the drawer. Ryan has a good temper, but a bad temper can destroy his store. However, this is the largest magical street in Egypt, so the Ministry of Magic also has an aura stationed here, so at most the store can be smashed, and life is still safe. Ryan walked outside the door and lost his anger. After all, his goal was not to make tears of the sun god. After looking around, Ryan found a small room in the only hotel on this street that provided accommodation. He was going to open all the things and jars he got from the pyramid today. This cannot be in Muggle territory. After all, it is something from thousands of years ago. Who knows whether it will pass the shelf life? When an instability explodes, the Ministry of Magic will definitely send Aurors out to check. He came out to take risks, not out to be a fugitive. The first thing he took out were a few jars he bought today. He planned to pick something from them and send it to Hermione. After all, there was nothing interesting about the things he bought. The 2 most powerful jars were opened first. A small sachet came out of the first jar, and it still smells fragrant. Once you smell it, you will feel your whole body calming down. The second one opened a crystal ball. Its function is to monitor the situation 100 meters around. If there is danger, it will turn red. Ryan nodded. These two things were enough, and it wouldn't be a loss to use scrap metal for the rest. Ryan waved his hand, and the next few jars all cracked open, revealing the contents inside. A ring that is losing magic, a cursed ruby, and several parchments with magical circuits drawn on them. Overall, it's all rubbish. Instead of rushing to deal with the items in the pyramid, Ryan wrote a letter to Hermione first. Then he handed the letter and two small items to Pace. After watching Pace disappear into the horizon, Ryan took out today's harvest in the pyramid from his pocket. The first is the so-called Tears of the Sun God, 12 in total. Ryan plans to place them on his portable tent so that the tent can automatically fight back when he sleeps. 10 metal plates recording text, under Ryan's careful study, discovered the secret of Khafra's resurrection. Khafra is not dead at all, but uses this rejuvenation spell to make himself younger. But powerful spells have their limitations after all, otherwise they would be called forbidden spells. First of all, this spell requires an extremely complex sacrificial ceremony, and then it also requires a huge number of magic sources, which can be anything with magic. But there must be more magic power, so Khafra chose a wizard. Ryan thought about the social background at that time, and it seemed that there was no problem. The second step is to find a place that cannot be disturbed. Once the magic begins, it will take at least 3,000 years. Any interruption in the middle will cause the magic to fail. Finally, after 3,000 years, someone has to wake you up from the outside, otherwise you will remain asleep. After reading it, Ryan shook his head. 3,000 years of time, just to regain a few decades of life. Very tasteless. But I have to admit that Khafra, who developed this spell, is very powerful. Ryan solemnly put away these metal plates. If he doesn't need them anymore, he can trade them for some good things later. The next thing to look at is the 7 magic items, a set of magic items. Visit 6 of the antenna-like objects according to a regular hexagon, and then place something similar to a master control switch in the middle. Inputting magic power into it can activate the plants inside and accelerate their growth. The larger the placement range, the weaker the effect of accelerating growth, and vice versa. Ryan also collected it, and when he had time, sent the pudding to be displayed in his own plantation. As for other metal materials, Ryan looked at them and found that they were all good and rare materials, and several of them had been mined out. After finishing, Ryan stood up straight and looked out the window. It was pitch dark outside the windows and the shops were closed, but there were still people setting up stalls on the street outside. After all, the blanket is only valid for a whole day. If I go back after dark, isn't it a waste of half a day? Some people also choose to sell the blankets in their hands at low prices in the evening, and the people who take over will set up stalls all night long. The price is very low, and it can be sold for almost 2 or 3 coins for one night. When the time comes, take the blanket to the recycling center and you can get another sickle's blood back. When he came downstairs, Ryan simply ate something for dinner and then went back upstairs. He was not interested in the night market outside. He just stood on the window and opened his magic vision to take a look. There were not many people with magic fluctuations. Pace also brought a reply from Hermione and a delicious dinner cooked by Mrs. Granger. The kind-hearted Mrs. Granger thought that Ryan, who was out on adventures, was really like the adventurers in the book, exploring the dangerous wilderness during the day, and enduring the mosquitoes and eating dry food in the cold water at night. So she cooked a delicious dinner and asked Pace, the messenger, to bring it over. Looking at the not luxurious but delicious dinner on the table, Ryan suddenly felt that the world was pretty good. Although he had already had dinner, Ryan still cleared the food on the table. Pace continued to tear apart the dried meat that Mrs. Granger bought for him. Snack food. Ryan, who was sitting on the chair, looked at Pace, who was trying hard to tear the dried meat with his claws, and couldn't help but hit him on the head. Ryan's actions aroused Pace's dissatisfaction. He stood on the table and kept jumping around, and barked cuckoo at Ryan from time to time. Chapter 175. Early the next morning, Ryan checked out of the room and left the city. Instead of operating on his way, Ryan honestly bought a long-distance bus ticket. As for the destination, he didn't know. He just bought a ticket randomly and wanted to let fate guide him forward. Anyway, even if you go the wrong way, you can still apparate over. There weren't many people on the bus, which was normal. It was the first bus in the morning, so there weren't many people on it. If it were 8 or 9 in the morning, there probably wouldn't be so few people there. Although there are very few people, tickets are still sold from front to back according to seat numbers. However, when everyone saw that there was no one sitting in the back when the bus started, they randomly found an empty seat and sat down according to their own preferences. After all, it's a bit crowded with 2 seats next to each other. Ryan found a seat at the back and sat down, then he began to close his eyes and meditate. He let Pace go to play early in the morning. The bus kept running on the muddy road, and the desert outside the window kept receding. After an unknown amount of time, a middle-aged man with dark skin and an honest face sat next to Ryan and began to close his eyes and rest. Ryan sighed and moved 2 seats forward. He looked at his elegant clothes and scratched his head. Fortunately, nothing happened on the rest of the journey, and the bus stopped safely in an unfamiliar city. Hurry up, get out of the car. After the car stopped, the driver began to urge the passengers to get out of the car. Ryan tightened his clothes and got off the bus. It is a small city located in an oasis surrounded by desert. Most of the residents inside knew each other. After welcoming their acquaintances, they started pointing at Ryan. After all, Ryan's outfit looked expensive, and Ryan's handsome face also made them feel out of place. But soon, the onlookers all left. After all, no matter how handsome Ryan is, he can't let them have enough to eat. Hello. A very cheerful male voice sounded behind Ryan. Ryan turned around alertly. Wizard. A young man with a beard, short sleeves, and dark skin smiled at Ryan. Are you? Ryan was a little confused, but being able to say the word wizard meant that the person in front of him was also a wizard. Dongit Andala graduated from Hogwarts and is now studying Egyptian culture here. I like Egyptian culture the most. Mummies, pharaohs' scepters, etc. are all things worth exploring. As Andra talked, he began to forget himself, but in the end he realized that there was someone of his own kind in front of him. Ah, by the way, what about you? With that said, Andra stretched out his right hand. Ryan Zell, a third-year student at Hogwarts. Ryan said, reaching out to shake his hand. Ah, it turns out you're a junior. I'm from Hufflepuff. Which house are you from? Andra became even more enthusiastic when she heard that the person coming was also a student at Hogwarts, and also a junior. Slytherin. Cough cough cough. Seeing Andra cough twice in front of him, Ryan shrugged. Before he spoke, he knew Andra would react violently. Okay, no matter which college you are from, now that we are outside, we all come from Hogwarts. Andra patted Ryan on the shoulder and said. Are you going on a trip? I took a break from school and went out to explore. Aren't you a Slytherin? Are you discriminating against Slytherins? No. Andra denied decisively, otherwise if the purebloods heard it, they would be in a state of panic again. I heard that the senior just said that he likes Egyptian culture. Is there anything worth exploring here? Ryan changed the topic, otherwise the conversation would be dead today. Of course. Andala began to beam with excitement as she mentioned what she was interested in. Did Alexander the Great know? Egypt was under the rule of the Persian Empire at that time, and Alexander the Great defeated the Persian Empire, so the Egyptians considered him the liberator of Egypt and wanted to make him the pharaoh of Egypt. After that, in order to better rule Egypt, Alexander the Great continued to move westward, hoping to cross the desert to the Siwa oasis to ask the oracle. This was originally an extremely difficult journey, but Alexander was helped by 2 snakes found the temple of Amun. Of course, some people say it's 2 crows. But no matter what it is, I finally determined that Alexander the Great stayed here before finding the temple of Amun. Andra looked at Ryan and said, do you know what this means? It means there must be something hidden here. Before Ryan could speak, Andra answered on her own. What's hidden? Ryan was really curious. After all, he just killed a son of Amun yesterday, and today he encountered news about the temple of Amun. Could it be that fate made things difficult for him and Amun? Ryan thought so. Andra coughed twice and said helplessly, no, if I really found something, would I still tell you? Ryan looked at each other speechlessly. By the way, what are you doing at the station? Ryan didn't believe that this guy came to the station specifically to wait for him. Oops, I forgot, please wait for me for a while. With that, Andra ran back. After a while, Andra came over carrying a big bag. Uncle Toraha helped me bring something from Cairo, but I almost forgot to bring it. Andala was carrying a full snakeskin bag, but she still didn't blush or breath. By the way, I'm going to make curry today. Do you want to try it? It's not my fault. When I was in school, the house elves in the kitchen knelt on the ground and begged me to teach them how to cook. As Andra walked, she kept bragging to Ryan about her cooking skills. I don't know if Dean Sprout is okay now. The defense against the dark arts professors have changed a few more times. Has Professor Snape's potion changed its flavor? Alas! Don't you read the Daily Prophet? Ryan was confused when he heard the second one. This is already Egypt, and the Daily Prophet has no overseas business. Andala said helplessly. If it weren't for his hand holding the snakeskin bag, Ryan believed that he would have spread his hands. The defense against the dark arts professor last semester was Lockhart, but... that liar! Oh, I saw him being pinned to the ground and hammered by a vampire before. If I hadn't arrived, I might have found out where he would be buried right now. Chapter 176. Ryan was silent for a moment. He didn't expect Lockhart to have such a dark history. But when I think about it, I think it's normal. I often walk by the river and my shoes don't get wet. What's more, everyone knows Lockhart's strength. Professor Lockhart must be feeling very uncomfortable right now. Did he die in the Forbidden Forest, live in St. Mungo's, or be imprisoned in Azkaban? Andra moved the snakeskin bag on her back up and asked with a smile. Azkaban. Ha, I knew it, Andra said. The mysterious man cursed the defense against the dark arts professor. To be honest, I think he is quite brainless. When I was in second grade, the person who taught our defense against the dark arts class was a current Auror. I heard that Professor Dumbledore wrote a letter to invite him to teach. Unfortunately, he died in the Forbidden Forest. As Andra walked, she chatted with Ryan about interesting things from his school days. While listening, Ryan was also looking at Andra. However, Andala is very popular in this small town. After walking at least 500 or 600 meters, 3 or 4 people took the initiative to say hello to him. Senior seems to be very popular here. After 2 more ants greeted Andra, Ryan couldn't help but ask. Yes, when I first came here, there was a small gang here, about 5 or 6 people. They did all kinds of evil and idleness all day long. Later, I influenced them and made them hardworking and willing to work. The local residents were very grateful to me when they saw that I got rid of a bad thing for them and made the gangsters turn around. Oops, it's not a big deal. Although Andra said it was not a big deal, it could be seen from the crazily raised corners of his mouth and the slightly straightened back that he was quite proud at the moment. As for the influence mentioned by Andra, could you try to understand it by modifying your memory? However, in this case, Ryan deserves to say well done. Won't the Ministry of Magic pursue it? Ryan asked. This was a move against Muggles, and it had violated the International Statute of Wizarding Secrecy. 2 Aurors came, but I ran out and said they were here to take revenge on me. After hearing this, the neighbors rushed forward. There were many people and it was difficult for the Aurors to openly violate the confidentiality law. If I hadn't held him back in the end, maybe everyone would have been beaten to death. The last 2 Aurors were imprisoned. I don't know what happened after that. They were probably bailed out. But since then, the Ministry of Magic has not come to see me again. I guess that's it. Well, after all, I am also doing harm to the people. Andra said, and raised her eyebrows proudly at Ryan. Awesome. After thinking for a long time, Ryan finally choked out 3 words. Yeah, I think I'm awesome too. Although these people may look cruel, they are actually very nice people. Ah, here we are. As Andra finished speaking, Ryan stood in front of a colorful building. Literally, colorful. The walls of the building are covered with all kinds of strange patterns and words painted with watercolors. Under the sunlight, the whole building looks so dazzling. This used to be a gathering place for gangsters. After I reformed them, I lived here. Andra said with a smile, and then pushed open the ajar iron door. Basically no residents come to steal from me, so I don't bother to close the door. By the way, I keep everything in my own pockets. Andra placed the snakeskin bag securely in the corner, and then took out pots and pans and other things from her trouser pocket. Ryan was stunned for a moment. Have you brought them all? Yes, if the Ministry of Magic comes to visit us again one day, we will be able to run away. You can sit down and the curry will be ready soon. After saying that, Andra started cooking curry and ignored Ryan. Ryan wandered around the building casually. The domineering gangs of the past could be vaguely seen here. One wall was covered with the word death written in red paint. The first floor looks like a facade, mostly filled with rooms for storing sundries and rooms for gatherings. The second floor looked like a gang member's room, but it looked more like a homeless man's room. There was a stench inside, so Ryan could only look at the door and didn't want to stay any longer. The third floor looks much more luxurious, with a large conference room, a storage room, and a gym. There is also a nice bedroom that seems to have belonged to the gang boss, but is probably now Andra's room. Ryan only briefly looked at the other rooms at the door, but the gym made him feel a little strange. Zell, it's time for lunch. Andra came up after cooking the curry. When she saw Ryan standing in front of a wall in the gym and looking carefully, she walked over and patted Ryan on the shoulder. Do you think there's something hidden here? I think so too, but I can't open it. Andra put her hands on Ryan's shoulders and said with a smile. I also tried the lock-picking spell, but it couldn't open the electronic lock. With that said, Andra pulled a secret door from the wall, revealing the keyboard and screen inside. So there are ways to defend against magic, an ancient thing. Andra waved his hand with some disdain. He was born as a muggle. In an environment like Hogwarts where wizards are superior to others, although the professors are very kind, they always have a bit of arrogance when talking about muggles. Just give it a try, but the worst thing you can do is sound the alarm. Andra said with a smile. It seemed that he had tried it many times. Forget it, let's eat first. I've been craving Senior's curry for a long time. After trying it twice, Ryan gave up. Ha ha ha, I guarantee you'll be satisfied. Let me tell you, back then I went to the Forbidden Forest for night walks every day in order to cook. I guarantee that Hagrid is not as familiar with the Forbidden Forest as I am. Andra started patting Ryan on the shoulder and bragging again. As soon as Ryan arrived on the first floor, he smelled a scent. Does it smell good? Andra said, serving a plate of rice, then pouring a spoonful of curry on top of the rice and handing it to Ryan. By the way, here is some barbecue and hot sauce I left over from yesterday. If you don't treat me well, please enjoy it. You're too polite, Senior. Ryan said, taking a sip. Hey? It's really good. If I have to say it, I can only say that it is slightly better than pudding. Ryan hasn't tried the Michelin chef's cooking, but he thinks it's probably the same. It's actually very simple. I added some magic potion to it to flavor it. I'll give you the recipe if you need it. All the house elves at Hogwarts have these things. If you need them, you can ask them. Chapter 177. Ryan and Andra just sat in the former gangster's facade and finished their delicious lunch. Cleaned up like new. Andra took out her wand and cast a cleaning spell on the pots and pans. Sometimes, magic comes in handy. Then he put the pots and pans into his pocket again, patted his belly, and began to read the Daily Prophet that Ryan brought over. Ryan was speechless as he looked at Andra, who was sitting on a small couch with her legs crossed and reading a newspaper, looking like a retired old man. However, he did not continue to disturb Andra, but patted his butt and walked to the lockbox. Password discovery. Although the unlocking spell cannot open the lockbox, Ryan can use the spell to know the password of the lockbox. This is also a spell from the Book of All Laws. It is simple and practical, because all the ones that are not practical have been abandoned by Ryan. Perhaps I can publish a magic book in the future, which will definitely bring me great fame. Ryan murmured as he went downstairs to call Andra. After all, this is Andra's territory, and according to the law, everything found here belongs to its owner, Andra. Ah, Zell, you're here. I knew that idiot Lockhart was going to fall for me. I have to say, it's really great. You don't know, after I saved him before, he held me and talked about it for a long time. Dealing with vampires. I think I know the password. What? The password to the safe upstairs. Good job, man, you got half of it. Thanks. Hearing that Ryan already knew the password, Andra didn't even want to read the newspaper, and quickly pulled Ryan to the safe on the third floor. For such a long time, he was also very curious about what was inside. After all, anything worth keeping in a safe must be extremely precious. Ryan stood in front of the safe, inputting the password he had discovered using magic on the keyboard with both hands. Tick tick. Electronic sounds and the sound of the secret door opening sounded successively. Quick, open it and take a look, it must be something good. Andala said impatiently. Ryan pulled the door open out of curiosity. The cabinet is divided into 3 levels. The top level contains several medical bags and a stack of documents. The middle layer was filled with dozens of gold bars, and Andra swallowed a gulp of saliva. As a Muggle-born, he had never seen so much money. But when the two of them saw the things placed on the bottom floor, they couldn't help but take a breath. There were 5 automatic rifles placed there, the specific models of which Ryan couldn't tell. Rifle? Why does this little gang have this thing? Andala couldn't help but take out a gun and play with it in his hand. Of course, no magazine was loaded. Looking at the style, it should be modified. Look at this bullet, my god, it's a full power bullet. Andra pulled the paper bag wrapped with bullets a few times, revealing the yellow-orange bullets inside. Zell, let's talk about it. I can ask for less guns, but can you give me more gold? I can give up the medical kit. Of course Ryan wanted it. For things like gold, which he had a lot of, things like guns, which were extremely difficult to buy, were the things he wanted most. All the gold is yours and all the guns are mine, how about that? Well, can you leave a pistol for me? I keep it for self-defense. Sorry, self-defense is no longer a legal reason to own a gun. While joking, Ryan handed a pistol to Andra, along with 2 magazines and a box of bullets. Thank you. By the way, you can also take one of the gold bars. After all, when traveling alone, you have to carry some money with you. Then I'll accept it. The 2 men stood in front of the safe and divided up everything inside. Andra, who had won a lot of gold bars, looked very excited and said that she would take Ryan to try local barbecue tonight. Although their barbecue is not as good as mine, it tastes like an exotic food, so overall it's pretty good. Andra stopped reading the newspaper and took Ryan to talk. Speaking of what he was happy about, he also took Ryan to see the information he had collected over the years. Well, let me tell you, there is a secret here. Look at the buildings painted on this mural, which are completely different from the ancient Egyptian buildings known today. Andra showed Ryan a photo of the mural she took, and kept pointing with her fingers when she talked about the happy places. Here, each room in the mural has a square floor with a garden inside, and the doors of each room are also cylinders. This is very strange. Andra, who was immersed in her own world, completely ignored the shock in Ryan's eyes at this time. Ryan couldn't believe what he saw. The mural in the photo clearly depicts the huge city in the ruins he explored before. Damn it, how can it be here? What did you say? Andra asked doubtfully. He seemed to have heard Ryan murmuring something just now. I'm telling you, you're really awesome. Of course, but I thought about these murals for a long time and couldn't figure it out. But this is just a scene on my way to find ancient Egyptian culture. The next thing is really amazing. When I was exploring a ruins in Greece, I accidentally discovered a military diary. Based on that diary, I found this place. As he spoke, Andra's face turned red, and she stood up excitedly, dancing and saying, there must be something buried here, definitely. By the way, Ryan, please stay and help me search. The 2 of us will definitely make a big discovery. Sorry, I already have plans for this trip. Ryan said, pretending to be casual and picking up the photo of the mural. By the way, where was this photo taken? The buildings above look strange to me. I would also like to take a look on the way. It was probably in a cave in Iceland. I can't remember the details clearly. I discovered it by accident when I went there to visit a scholar who studies ancient Egypt. I'm sorry. It's okay, I'm just asking casually. And it's not convenient, so I won't go. Ryan said with a smile, but he was already preparing to go to Iceland as the next stop. But if you want to go to that damn place, you'd better wear more clothes. And the place is not peaceful. I heard that snow tigers are overflowing in Iceland again this year. The snow tiger is a magical animal unique to Iceland. It is so powerful that it takes 3 adult wizards to defeat it under normal circumstances. Its strength will be increased in a snowstorm. Its skin, fur, meat, bones, and blood are all extremely powerful. Medicinal value. However, there are only about 200 to 300 wizards in Iceland, and they cannot do anything to deal with the increasingly large snow tiger race. Instead, the snow tigers continue to compress the living space. If the International Wizarding Conference hadn't sent wizards to clean out some of the snow tigers every year, it's still unknown whether the Icelandic wizards would have survived. Chapter 179. Ryan was wearing a black magic robe and walking on a huge snow-capped mountain. From a distance, it looked like there was a small black reptile on top of the pure white cloth. Reen came to Iceland yesterday. After resting at the hotel in the evening, he started exploring the snow-capped mountains today. Before leaving, Ryan asked in detail about Andra's previous whereabouts in Iceland. This time Ryan decided to follow Andra's whereabouts. The previous exploration of the ruins left Ryan with too many doubts, so he was eager to find out what the ruins were. The magic perception has been turned on to the maximum, but after searching for so long, there is still no trace of the cave. Ryan was not in a hurry. He knew that this was not an easy task, so he thought of hunting 2 snow tigers. On the one hand, you can get various materials by hunting the snow tiger. On the other hand, you can also take the 2 fangs from the snow tiger's mouth to the Ministry of Magic of Iceland in exchange for a bounty. Yes, in order to curb the development of the snow tiger clan, the Icelandic Ministry of Magic even offered a bounty. But even so, few people are willing to come. Hidden in the snowy mountains, the snow tiger is a thick-skinned assassin who is proficient in stealth. It takes a lot of effort to kill it. If I have this time, wouldn't it be nice if I hunted some other magical animals? However, today Ryan was like a god of plague, retreating from all things. He had been walking for almost half a day, and he had not yet encountered a snow tiger or a cave. Isn't it true that there are so many snow tigers here that it's overwhelming? Why haven't I encountered one yet? Ryan looked up at the big sun in the sky, tightened his clothes, sighed, and said, "Forget it, let's find a place to have lunch." After some searching, Ryan found a relatively stable place, and then took out the dry food he had stored previously from his pocket. Water, some compressed biscuits and dried meat. Although he could use magic to go to the nearest store for lunch, Ryan still wanted to experience the adventurous life. There should be scallion oil added to the compressed biscuits, which tastes quite fragrant. Especially after Ryan drank a glass of water, he felt full in his stomach. The jerky is similar to the air-dried beef jerky distributed at Hogwarts before. It is very hard, but it tastes delicious. After finishing lunch, Ryan took a short rest and started on the journey again. Looking at the endless white snow, Ryan touched his temple, and the vision in front of him instantly became darker. This is similar to wearing sunglasses and can prevent snow blindness. After continuing to march on the snow-capped mountains for 2 or 3 hours, Ryan became impatient. I looked at the sky and saw that the sun was still shining brightly. At this time, in places at high latitudes like Iceland, the sunset is very late and the sunrise is very early, with almost 20 hours of sunshine a day. Forget it, let's set up camp. Ryan didn't want to continue anymore, so he simply set up camp and read the books about Egyptian magic circles that he had transformed in Egypt before, so that he could change to the next one. Taking out the tent given to him by Faou, Ryan used magic to tidy up the ground a little, making it flat, and then opened the tent. The magic tent does not require manpower to build at all. You only need to input magic power to let it build automatically. After casting a few small warning spells around him, Ryan got into the tent. After the tent came into Ryan's hands, Ryan made some modifications to it. In addition to repairing the damaged magic, he also added a lot of practical magic. Constant temperature spell, wind fixing spell, light and dark spell, hardening spell, etc. These would make Ryan's little tent even more comfortable. Ryan was lying on a lounge chair in the tent. There was a small stove on his right, but the place where the fire was lit was changed by Ryan to the alchemy items he had found in Gunter's old house. There is a teapot on the stove and a small tea can next to it. After the water is boiled, you can make a cup of fragrant black tea. Although Ryan does not have the habit of drinking afternoon tea every day, he will not refuse to make a cup of tea occasionally. Taking out the Book of All Laws from his mind, Ryan turned to the place where he saw it last time and continued reading. About 3 or 4 minutes later, the teapot on hand made a sound, which was a sign that the water was ready. There were no fancy tricks, no red tape, not even washing the tea. Ryan poured hot water directly into the cup filled with tea leaves, then touched the cup with his finger, leaving a constant temperature spell, and then ignored it. After flipping through a page, Ryan estimated that the tea was almost brewed by now, so he put down the book in his hand and picked up the cup of brewed black tea. At this time, the weather outside suddenly changed, and a strong wind roared in, rolling up the snow on the ground and forming bursts of white mist. Comfortable. Ryan took a sip of hot tea, and the sound of the howling wind outside could be heard in his ears. This feeling was very comfortable. After drinking half of the tea, Ryan filled the cup with water again, then put the cup down and continued reading. Outside the tent, the wind was biting, but inside the tent, it was as warm as spring. But there will always be people interrupting your leisurely time, but this time it's not people. Roar! A loud sound rang out, and the magic circle that Ryan had released around the tent as a warning was quickly triggered. What the hell, what are you doing here now? Ryan said helplessly that he had been looking for a long time in the morning but couldn't find it. I just wanted to be lazy in the afternoon, hide comfortably in the tent and read a book, but it came. But don't give up the gifts that come to your door in vain. What's more, Ryan also had a headache when he looked at the complicated magic circle in the book. After walking out of the tent, Ryan tightened his cloak tightly. As soon as he entered the windy snow-capped mountains from the warm tent, the instantaneous temperature difference made Ryan feel uncomfortable. After casting a constant temperature spell on himself, Ryan felt better. The strong wind blew snowflakes, covering the world with a hazy layer of white sand. At this time, a sturdy snow tiger was slowly moving towards Ryan's tent under the cover of the snowstorm. This tiger is very strange. Normally, all it takes is a roar, and these two-legged beasts will run away like crazy. Why didn't this person leave after being yelled at today? Snow tigers have an extremely developed sense of smell and can even smell prey 5,000 meters away with the help of snowstorms. So at this point it was pretty sure that Ryan was still standing. And Ryan could clearly see a blue magic source slowly approaching him in the magic vision. So the visual obstruction caused by this huge snowstorm did not affect either party at all. Ryan raised his hands, and more than a dozen ice spikes shot up from the ground instantly. Snow Tiger was also alert and jumped away dangerously. The Snow Tiger that had just landed knew that the enemy had discovered it, so it quickly left the place. Chapter 180. Prison of Ice. Ryan flicked his hand, and the moisture in the air quickly condensed into an ice prison, surrounding Shuehu. Snow Tiger just roared, and the ice prison that hadn't fully formed instantly shattered. It also knew now that its ability to be invisible in a snowstorm was completely useless to the human in front of it. After sniffing his nose and confirming Ryan's location, Snow Tiger flew towards Ryan's direction. With the bonus of the blizzard, Snow Tiger's speed has reached a new level. Even if ordinary people can see it, they will never have time to react. Ice Wall Wind Shield. With the help of the blizzard, these two spells are released very quickly. Snow Tiger jumped into the air and was hit in the stomach by the ice wall rising from the ground. Then a wind shield appeared behind it. The wind shield composed of strong winds was filled with tiny wind knives. Snow Tiger fell on it without any precautions, and a patch of hair on his body became bald in an instant. However, since the wind shield did not focus on attacking, and the Snow Tiger's skin was relatively tough, the hole was not opened. However, Shuehu turned his head and looked at the area behind him that had just touched the wind shield, and he immediately roared. What is intolerable is unbearable. Shuehu turned his head and looked at Ryan with red eyes. It wants the human in front of it to pay a price, so that he will know how stupid it is to bald the Snow Tiger's fur. Light Body Technique, Clarity Technique, Quick Thinking and Armor Protection. With this skill, Ryan also gave himself several beneficial spells. Shuehu also felt the magic power fluctuations in Ryan's body, and knew in his heart that the human in front of him was stronger. After all, it was a tiger that had escaped 3 wizards' attacks, so it was quite experienced in dealing with wizards. However, after so many battles, he also knew the shortcomings of these wizards, that is, they were not good at close combat. Roar! With a roar, the hair on Snow Tiger's body seemed to become a little whiter. Slowly squatting down, stepping back, and exerting force, Shuehu instantly ejected and took off, his speed rising to a new level. If ordinary people could see clearly just now, now it is already to the point of despair for ordinary people. Roar! There was another roar, and Ryan's heart moved, and he left the place in a flash. And where he originally stood, there is now a crystal clear ice pick. There is a spell to increase speed, and there is also an ice cone spell. It seems that this Snow Tiger is not simple. Ryan was thinking about it in his mind, but he didn't stop. With a pull of the void, several sword blades without handles appeared in Ryan's hand. Manipulation. Following the control of Ryan's mind, several sword blades quickly flew towards Shuehu. But Shuehu dodged left and right, and managed to avoid it by relying on his extraordinary speed. Ice Prison. As Ryan's words fell, the white snow on the ground instantly turned into ice, exuding a cold air that could freeze the soul, and the Snow Tiger, which was still moving at high speed, instantly slowed down because of this cold air. Ryan smiled and looked at Shuehu who had slowed down. At this time, Snow Tiger also felt the danger in his heart. He looked at the scope of the ice prison and found that it was not big, so he had the idea of escape. After all, the green hills are still there, so there is no need to worry about running out of firewood. The reason why the scope of the ice prison is not large is because the location of this battle is not far from Ryan's tent. Ryan is afraid that if the scope is expanded, his tent will be damaged. If you want to run away, don't leave once you're here. Ryan also noticed Shuaihu's small movements, and the movements in his hands became even faster. Ice prison strangulation. The originally smooth ice surface instantly shattered and turned into pieces of ice slag. It's just that the edges of these ice slags are extremely sharp, which makes people feel scared. These ice shards quickly floated into the air and then spun, and Ryan began to control the blade to continuously force Shuaihu's position. In just a few seconds, there were several more wounds on Snow Tiger's body, and ice blue blood began to seep out slowly, dripping down the white hair onto the snow. Roar! Snow Tiger roared, but this time Ryan heard fear from it, fear of death. But obviously, this Snow Tiger still wants to give it a try. The hair on its body began to shine, and a hint of blue appeared in its eyes. Good chance. Ryan secretly thought, then pointed his finger, and a grey light shot out instantly, crossing the space and accurately appearing on Shuaihu's forehead. This Snow Tiger didn't even use its ultimate move, and was just strangled by Ryan. In the end, Ryan used soul strangulation. The advantage is that it will not be blocked by entities. The disadvantage is that although the flying speed is fast, after all, it does not cross space instantly, so you only need to move too fast to avoid it. With Snow Tiger's speed just now, he could completely dodge it, so Ryan didn't use it. It was not until the end that Snow Tiger forced his ultimate move despite the damage from the ice prison and the blade, and this gave Ryan a chance. It's harvest time. Ryan removed the spells from his body, but still retained the iron armor spell, and then added several early warning spells around him before starting to decompose the Snow Tiger. Oh! It's still a male tiger, making a lot of money, hee. Ryan laughed strangely twice, put the good thing into the special potion and put it away. If this thing is brought to Nocturne Alley, it can be sold for a sky-high price. The tiger skin was a pity, as a large piece of hair was shaved off by Ryan, making it not look so perfect. But the reward from the Ministry of Magic in Iceland should make up for it. Ryan said as he put the fur into a special box. These things require further processing by professionals. Before that, it is best to use special containers for storage. Otherwise, there will be some discount on the price when selling. After disassembling the whole Snow Tiger, Ryan evacuated the tent and prepared to camp somewhere else. There had just been a big battle here, and the remaining magic was still chaotic. Ryan was afraid that magical animals would run along the magic. Magical animals love this kind of chaotic magic the most, not for anything else but for the battle that just happened. If both sides lose, then they can have a good meal, if one side wins, then it depends on whether the winning side is easy to bully. If you are easy to bully, you can have a good meal, if you are not easy to bully, most of the winners will not look like extraneous problems because they have just experienced a war, so it is easy to escape. Ryan simply didn't want any more magical animals to bother him. He was very satisfied with the Snow Tiger he got today. After walking for almost 3 or 4 hours, Ryan looked around and put the tent out again. This time, Ryan deliberately went further with the warning magic, and even added a driving away wild beasts spell on the tent.